Nola Danslespese Tranges Chabot, Alphonse produced by Suzanne Schell, Reynold Levesque, and the online distributed proofreading team. Come all you faithful so popular in England, and angelic canticle in Gelenzang, which eminent singers perform each year, during the Protestant service at Moses and Aaron Church in Amsterdam. Christmas is truly the quintessential family festival in the northern regions of Europe. Sweden and Norway, England, Germany, Christmas celebrations in the North Countries have a dual religious and familial character. The offices differ little from ours, except that church songs are often performed in the vernacular language. We will only cite the adaptation of Adest Faudos, Come all ye faithful. Oh! This file was produced from images generously made available by the Biblioth National de France Bent Gallica. Monsignor Chabot Pry, Latissa Saint Etty Cura, de Pithivias, lawyer at Knoll in foreign countries, 1906, transcribers note. All extraneous material from the edition that served to produce this document is reported at the end of the document for those who might be interested in it. Knoll in the North Countries. Scandinavian countries 8 days before the celebration of Christmas. Stockholm squares are covered with fir trees that farmers cut from nearby forests and bring to sell in town. Every family, no matter how poor, has its own decorated Christmas tree with lights, and toys and all sorts of treats. This truce varied according to local laws. Sometimes it lasted up to 20 days. In all Scandinavian countries, Christmas is prepared discreetly and in secret, so that the gifts given on that day bring both surprise and contentment. Secretly, young girls complete their work. One has embroidered a pair of slippers for her father, another a couch cushion for her mother. The poor are not forgotten. Parties are organized for them, and they receive clothes and abundant silver donations. In Norway, the Christmas celebration once enjoyed certain privileges. Thus, judicial proceedings were suspended for several days, most commonly from Christmas to Epiphany. Their older sisters wrap in fine white paper a silk purse made with crochet and embellished with a pink favour, or create beautiful and rich lace to be offered as altar cloth to their church. In some countries, the distribution of gifts is most original. The recipient meticulously searches among the cries of joy from all the onlookers, flowers, hay straw, foliage, or paper, to locate the coveted item. The present carefully concealed within a bunch of flowers, a bundle of hay or straw, or in multiple envelopes of fabric, foliage, or paper, bears in large letters the name of the person it is intended for. The messenger charged with delivering it knocks firmly on the door, which opens without delay, and furtively throws the julklapp, that's the Swedish name for the present, into the room where the family is gathered. Then begins a highly entertaining scene. A chatterer gets a pillow or an extinguisher, a fat person a steel collar. At times he finds a golden pin, sometimes a precious vase, occasionally an elegant and graceful statue, and at other times, after unrolling the mysterious envelopes, he finds nothing. An explosion of laughter greets the disappointment of the patient, victim of this innocent prank. The julklapp sometimes has a moral and satirical character. The too elegant lady receives a bizarrely attired doll. The lord who, in his salon, uses too much light or leaves his antechamber in darkness, receives a dozen lanterns. When nothing is left at the bottom of the wastepaper basket, where children have thoroughly searched through the scattered papers on the floor to see if anything has been left, the family goes to the dining room, where they are awaited by a supper composed exclusively of national dishes. In Scandinavian countries, the Christmas meal stands out from others due to the traditional nature of the dishes served. Strongly alcoholic Spanish wines are the only ones capable of digesting such a hearty meal. Note that Mr. Bittard Knoll. On the evening before Christmas, around 11 o'clock, in the hamlets, everyone gets into a sleigh and goes to the service. No Christmas supper without ham, accompanied by hot rice poured with cold milk, then vortbrod, a type of bread made with wheat flour mixed with naan, fermented beer, finally the indigestible lusfisk. Imagine a merluch or dried cod. boiled for 3 days in ash water mixed with quicklime, and then stuffed with pepper, mustard, and horseradish. This is lustfisk. 1,000 stars twinkle in the silence of the night, disturbed only by the jingling of the horses' bells cracking the snow beneath their hooves. Usually, next to the village church, a large barn provides shelter, benches for the peasants and racks for their horses. As soon as the service is over, everyone returns to their homes as quickly as possible. At this time, in Finland, a most entertaining scene unfolds. An old belief promises the best harvest of the year to whoever enters their home first after the Christmas service. This then becomes a conspiracy against the drivers. Young boys sneak out of church during the service, unchain the horses, hitch the sleds together, change the collars, tangle the harnesses, etc. The ensuing chaos is imagined, with screams and sometimes fights. The church square transforms into a true battlefield. Finally, the sleds are found, each repairs their team, and they set off at a gallop. The battle ends with a race to the bell tower, too. Note Tuntradeskla is Noel. In most rural areas, housewives ensure that during the Christmas holidays, order and cleanliness reign throughout their homes. It is customary to spread fresh straw on the floors, which gives the family room the appearance of a barn where the sheaves have been laid out before threshing. Is it in memory of the straw and the poverty of the manger? We are inclined to believe so. Whatever the case, this Christmas straw is said to have a wonderful virtue. Animals that eat it are preserved from all illness for the year. In Sweden, farmers want all animals to participate in the Christmas solemnity on that day, says Mir. It is a charming and dazzling concert, that of the granivorous people making a racket around this pole to peck at the wheat stalks. Luriosenly duck. They give freedom to guard dogs. They serve their livestock an elite feed. 3. Note 3. Christmas celebration in Sweden and Finland. It is a fairly common practice in Sweden and Norway to offer, on Christmas Day, a meal to birds. The last sheaf of the harvest is carefully preserved, among the poor as well as the rich, until the eve of the great solemnity. On December 25th in the morning, it is attached to the end of a pole and decorated on the roof of the house. All the little air inhabitants also take their joyful feast and give thanks to Providence, who, on such a happy day, wished to fill them with joy. This delightful Swedish custom reminds us of those two well-known verses, "To the young of birds he gives their pasture, and his goodness extends over all nature." 4. Note 4. Racine, Atali, Act I, Scene Vi. While eating the grain, they raise their heads to shoot an arrow, a cry of joy to heaven. 5 Note 5 Frecantis, O Mahoney. One of our best poets has gracefully sung this New Year's Eve of the small birds, and the field birds. Will they not celebrate? Those that cruel winter decimates every day, those that cold passes by, that famine threatens on the bare tree of their love nests. Oh no! For them, one seeks a tangled sheaf where thousands of ears bend beneath the grain. It is spread out on the snow. Run, gentle winged, for your table is set, and the feast is ready. And from here you see the chaffinch, the finch, the little kinglet flying at the call. England, the English people, celebrate the solemnity of Christmas with such joy, such unity, and such expenditure that one can regard Christmas as their national feast. Note 6.3. The old ending, Mas means feast, Christmas, the feast of Christ. In times past, on the occasion of Christmas, a carnival festival took place. The English carols tell us about the characters in these masquerades. The King of Banquet, the Queen of Folly, Princess Derision appear amidst a boisterous cortege. At court, among princes, an officer was charged with presiding over the rejoicings. He was known as Lord of Misrule. In Scotland he was called Abbot of Unreason. These offices were abolished by Act of Parliament in 1515. Priests had to intervene several times against the frivolity of these amusements. In folk lore collections there are mentions of joyful bands led by the King of Derision and Princess of Banquet during Christmas celebrations. Under foolish disguises, neighbours would shamelessly offer their Christmas box to the queen of the feast, asking for generosity of joy, laughter, alms of pleasures.
Alas!
The grim Reformation blew upon all these joys, extinguished all these lights, and falsified all these trumpets. That they are far today from those days when Henry I served at table his son, king of the feast, and brought to him, at the sound of trumpets, as a dish of honour, a boar's head crowned with laurel and rosemary, its formidable defences buried in the blooming apple or golden orange. And how time has passed since 130 of London's most powerful citizens, dressed in fantastical costumes and titles, kings, ministers, chosen by madness, rode on dappled steeds, sounding fanfares, racing to Kensington to meet the grandson of Edward I, all gathered in one joy, singing Christmas. It is placed in large open crates, known as heresses, and transported on the decks of the ships. We prepare for Christmas several weeks in advance, says Mr. Alphonse Esqueros. Enormous preparations are made for Christmas. Copious shipments of fat geese arrive from Normandy. 2 steamboat lines, from Dieppe to New Avon and from Le Havre to Southampton, are barely sufficient for their transport to England. Poitiers and Touraine also send their stuffed ducks to John Bull. In 1901, a small province in the centre, Ceylon, sent over 60,000 turkeys by train to London. Southampton and New Avon ships take piles of mistletoe, this parasitic plant that the Gauls used to cut with golden scythes, from Granville and all along the coasts of the English Channel. Note 7 Cetra Oscar Havard, the festivals of our fathers. The illustrious Walter Scott tells us that his ancestors already looked forward to Christmas as the quintessential family festival. England was merry England, when old Christmas brought his sports again. T's Christmas broached the mighty's tale, too, as Christmas told the merry's tale. A Christmas gambol oft would cheer the poor man's heart through half the year. England was the joyful England when the old Christmas returned its joys. It was Christmas that punctured the strongest beer. It was Christmas that told the happiest tale. Christmas frolics often cheered the poor man's heart for half the year. Cows, geese, turkeys compete for top prices. The most prized will later adorn the displays of industrialists who bought them by the weight of gold. On the eve of Christmas, says Mr. Vermatre, all London is illuminated. The butchers' shops, in particular, sparkle with lights. One sees cows skinned, lying whole on stands, with gas lamps in their muzzles. Above them, one often reads these promotional words, brought up by Her Majesty, raised by Her Majesty the Queen. Immense flocks of geese travel solemnly from northern England along every route to the metropolis. Great oxen announce their arrival on trains or ships with lugubrious moosings. In London, a few days before Christmas, an exhibition of animals to be sold for Christmas takes place in the Grand Hall of Islington, known as the Agricultural Hall. Indeed, Queen Victoria grazed herds at Windsor, Hampton Court, and even Kensington Gardens, the Boulogne Wood of London. On the evening of the 24th of December, about 2 o'clock, the excitement becomes extraordinary in London's most populous districts, and especially in Whitechapel. The coachmen, perched behind their vehicles, boldly guide their horses. All right, everything is fine resounds in conversations. Everywhere there are piles of foals, as one would not see in Paris's central market halls. Louis Blanc, with his sharp and original pen, has given us the most picturesque and true picture ever drawn of London's Christmas. What enormous cuts of meat! What mountains of bloody flesh! What a luxury of imposing comestibles! At the Constitutional Club, one of London's most important circles, a huge piece of beef, weighing between 300 and 400 pounds, is roasted each year for Christmas. This is what they call the Baron of Beef, counted by myriads, heartily displayed, sheep saddles, veal heads, boar snouts, turkeys, duck, geese, chickens, partridges, pheasants, plovers, rabbits, and a fish of every species and size. The foggy city offers this strange spectacle of increasing activity up until midnight. The club's most distinguished members do not miss, during the night of Christmas, to visit the Baron of Beef. One can then see, in front of the immense fireplace, the black clothes of the most elegant fashionables mixed with the white vests and aprons of the cooks. For Christmas, the home receives a special decoration. Bunches of holly, with shining leaves, brightened by their small red berries, adorn the most modest homes as well as the feudal castle. Who has not admired the crossed branches of the druidic plant, its pale green foliage dotted with transparent white seeds like coral pearls? Note 8.3. The Druids regarded mistletoe as a symbol of the soul's immortality because of its perpetual verdure. The red berries, say the old songs, agreeably crown the head of dark winter. Garlands of laurel, ivy, and flowers surround the chandeliers, paintings, and ancestral armour. But it is the mistletoe, destined, they say, to drive away sorcerers, that plays the greatest role in Christmas decorations. They would harvest it on the 6th night of the new moon, following the winter solstice. This night, known as Mother Night, marked the beginning of the Gaulish year. A druid, dressed in white, would climb an oak tree with a golden scythe and cut the plant, while other druids received it in a white sheet, for it was not to touch the ground. Once, on the eve of Christmas, after the customary prayers and acts of piety, candles were lit, and, with great solemnity, the head of the household placed a log, called the Yule log or Christmas block, in the fireplace. If the log goes out before the end of the night, or if someone squints or goes barefoot while it's burning, it is considered a bad omen. Note 9 Yule in Anglo-Saxon Yule, the feast. It was ignited with a spark from last year's log. As long as it burned, there were plenty of toasts, songs, and storytelling. This custom still exists, particularly in northern England, but accompanied by certain superstitions. December was called Ciara Giula, before the feast of Christmas, and January After Giula, after. During the Christ night, carol singers, Christmas carolers, will be heard at the doors of homes. They are known as waits. Note 10 Christmas carols are Christmases. Some do it purely out of kindness, in honour of their friends or family members. Washington Irving, in his excellent work, The Sketch Book, tells us this. I found myself at a friend's house on Christmas morning, still in bed, when I heard the sound of little footsteps resonating at my door. Soon a choir of young voices began to sing the old Christmas song, Rejoice. Our Saviour, he was born on Christmas Day, in the morning. I gently got up, quickly opened the door, and beheld one of the most beautiful groups of fairies that a painter could imagine. He was composed of a little boy and 2 little girls, the oldest not more than 6. They looked like 3 cherubs. In some parts of England, children gather together to go from cottage to cottage, singing glee's refrain songs. They went round the house and sang at every door. Other singers go about the streets, begging for themselves the few pence coins that the generosity of the watchman chooses to give them. One of these popular songs, with a lively and joyful tune, has the refrain, "The merry, merry time, the merry, merry time, bless the merry, merry Christmas time. Lijoix joix, lijoix temps, bae, naisut lijoix joix temps di null." This use of Christmas carols is among the oldest, as proven by an Anglo-Norman carol that we have discovered, and of which we quote the first stanza, Gentlemen. Hear us now. From afar we have come to you to ask for Christmas. For it is said in this place that the sun holds its annual feast. Ah, this is the day God gives here joy of love to all who honour Christmas Lamb. Note 11, Lady Marie de France. It is certain God gives to all here joy of love who honour Christmas Day. Gentlemen, listen to us now. From afar we have come to you to ask for Christmas, for it is said in this place. Traditionally one celebrates its annual festival. Ah! Ah! Max Aurel, who had spent a long time in London, wrote in his book John Bull and His Island, Christmas is the great family festival in England. Indeed, in every English family, rich or poor, Christmas is celebrated with a feast, where the dishes are served in abundance. The choice cut is first, sirloin, lord de loyo, which Charles I, in a moment of good humour, had knighted. Roast goose, follows as the favourite dish, while roasted turkey takes its place when it's available. Then appears the sign of English nationality, the famous plum pudding.
Hip! Hip!
Hurrah! Honour to the king of the feast. Note ultwantry, preparing the Christmas pudding is a solemn affair. Every member of the family turns the duff that will become the cake. Sometimes it takes colossal proportions. Oh! The famous pudding that a brilliant Irish brother excelled at preparing. Certain guilds had puddings made that absorbed hundreds of pounds of flour and Corinth grapes. At the convent of Ewell, one of our friends writes to us. We organize our feasts according to English and French customs, with an English twist for the secular side and a French influence for the religious aspect. The English pour floods of Sherry-Xers wine from Spain, made in London, over everything. Oranges, candies, almonds, and hazelnuts make their appearance at dessert. The port wine, the ginger wine for abstainers 14, the whisky, even the gin, play a quite significant role in the drinking world. At Sandringham, where King and Queen of England usually spend the Christmas holidays, a young swan was served this year as Christmas roast. It was a joy beyond measure to see the blue flames of alcohol running down its golden sides. And when, in a final frenzied rush, the pretty little flames faded away, the pudding was cut into succulent slices, to the acclamations of all, while the poor brother lamented the loss of a masterpiece he had put his entire culinary talent into. Finally, minced pies, flaky pastries encasing hashes of meats, spices, and fruits 13 appear. Note 13, this is what we call a PTA oila mincy. Note Fawkesbury people who abstain from intoxicating liquors. At universities, particularly Oxford and Cambridge, it is tradition to eat, at Christmas, a roast boar's head. It is surrounded with rosemary and served with interminable salams. 500 years ago, roasted swan was a coveted dish among gourmets and appeared on grand tables at Christmas. This swan had been fattened by the master of swans to the court, an official dating back to ancient times whose duty is to oversee the breeding and feeding of swans that inhabit the parks and gardens of royal properties. King Edward VI continued this tradition, ordering his swan master to fatten a dozen of his students, which he present as gifts at Christmas to royal families, high court officials, and the judges of the Superior Court 15. Note 50 Ligaulois, December 26, 1904. The wealthy Englishman wishes for his poor brother to rejoice at Christmas. Newspapers are filled with appeals from charitable societies, subscriptions pour in, and private individuals, funds open widely to provide the poor with their share of this national celebration. In some cities in England, the mayor receives, at Christmas time, 100 old people who come for tea, while his wife gathers together resource, less widows. Elsewhere, there are foundations for donations of meat, woolen blankets, and coal sacks. The French hospital, located on Shaftesbury Avenue and served by the French sister servants of the Sacred Heart, receives each year an abundance of turkeys, geese, and puddings for patients, convalescents, and the infirm. This detail was given to us, even in London, by the superior of the institution. Thus, the annual distribution of the Shoreditch Christmas Parcel Fund Society of Christmas packages, established in 1870, took place at the Pitfield Street Baths. A few kind words were addressed to the Assembly by Councillor Dar Davies, President of the Society, who was assisted by the Honourable Claude Hay, MP, and Alderman Pearce. 956 of the poorest citizens of the locality, most of them having large families, received a grocery parcel containing half a pound of tea, a half-quart measure of flour, half a pound of sugar, and everything necessary to make a good Christmas pudding, and, in addition, a ticket for 100 pounds of coal. Note 16, The Daily Telegraph, December 23, 1904. In some workhouses, poorhouses, charitable ladies provide a full Christmas dinner, roast beef, plum pudding, and beer, when a temperance society does not intervene to replace the beer with tea. In these workhouses, they even sometimes hold, something new for Protestant England, a religious ceremony at midnight. Watch service, just as Catholics have their midnight mass. On Christmas Day, A dinner for over 1,000 poor people is ordered by the Queen of England. After the Christmas dinner, various games are played. We will mention only two. The first is Snapdragon. Her Majesty, accompanied by the Princess of Wales and her grandchildren, walks through the grand halls, speaking with her guests, rejoicing them with her presence, while she herself made bed covers, sent at the same time to London hospitals. Note 700 Nicolay, History of Beliefs, Volume I, p. 81. Hide and seek tag is played in old manors. Raisins and almonds are placed on a large cup filled with natural water, covered with a thin layer of brandy, which is then lit, requiring quickness to remove the raisins and almonds without burning, as the ripples of a long flame protect them from harm for a long time 17. And at this time the old woman, with her trembling voice, never fails to recite the legend of the beautiful lower. It is a Christmas carol that dates back, they say, to the 5th century. Our literal translation presents it in all its simplicity. Christmas at the old castle, its celebration day. The daughter of noble baron plays with her companions. She plays hide and seek. What joy! She hides so well, that she disappears and no one can find her. Not even her fancy, the young and handsome Lord Low. Days, weeks, months, years pass. 20 years later, as we needed a tablecloth for the Christmas feast, by chance we opened an old chest and found, oh horror, a skeleton crowned with faded white roses. Young girls, think of the fiancée of the beautiful Lord Low. British Christmas is above all the children's festival. English schools have 2 annual holidays. One, the longest, takes place in summer, and the other is granted for Christmas. It is due to the presence at home of children scattered in colleges that the family reunion is complete. On Christmas Eve, the children hang stockings under their iron beds, where Father Christmas Santa Claus will. They believe, or pretend to believe, leave toys and treats. On Christmas night the children reign as sovereigns, and, like in ancient Saturnalia, the world is turned upside down. A gentle tyranny of a few hours, for, as Emile Augier says, we truly exist only through these small beings, who establish themselves as masters in all our hearts, who take our lives without realizing it, and are only happy if they are not ungrateful. The whole family is gathered, so it's the noise of young voices, the clapping of eyes, the tapping of little feet under the table. Granny requests silences. She gets brought a bottle of her oldest cognac. The pudding is soaked, the gas is turned off, and the youngest baby lights the brandy, whose flame sparkles in blue reflections, while the boisterous youth improvises a circle around the large table. The gas shines again, and the pudding is seriously cut into. First, they divide up the absent ones. It is Christmas that is really the New Year's Day, and serves as a transition from one year to the next. The post from the very next day will deliver this touching remembrance of friendship to the settlers of New Zealand, to the sheep farmers of Australia, to the garrisons in India and the Cape. Note Hen Atry, sheep farmers. England celebrates Christmas with genuine joy. It's the time chosen for exchanging wishes and gifts. So a great number of Christmas cards, Christmas, leave England for all corners of the anglicised world, colonized by the ever-encroaching conquest of the British people, an empire on which the sun never sets. The sun never sets. We have under our eyes a very complete collection of Christmas cards. There are some charming ones. Some are on fine and coloured paper, sometimes with photographs or engravings of graceful landscapes or paintings by great masters. Most of the wishes expressed can be summed up in these, with sincere wishes for a very happy Christmas and a bright and prosperous New Year from X, with sincere wishes for a very happy Christmas and a bright and prosperous New Year from X. These cards are within reach of all budgets. They range from 10 cents to 50 francs. The London Post Office dispatches over 60 million of them at Christmas time. Sometimes a tiny box containing a few grains of Christmas pudding is included. Every English family that does not receive news of absent relatives or close friends during Christmas feels profound sorrow, and if it concerns parents or intimate friends, the whole family mourns. The day after Christmas is known as Boxing Day, due to the boxes' mailboxes, piggy banks that the mailman, milkman, bread delivery girls, and countless other unknown friends distribute, while wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. You can best respond by giving them tips. On that day, the population takes advantage of cheap trains, flooding places of leisure and seemingly completely forgetting that Christmas is a religious feast. The Englishman carries the memory of Christmas everywhere. In his most distant colonies, on the sands of Africa, or in the frozen lands of the north, he gathers his compatriots as if they were one family. Together, they celebrate Christmas standing, with glasses in hand. They send a fraternal greeting and their wishes for happiness to the beloved ones left beyond the ocean. During the Crimean War, English ladies were moved with compassion for their unhappy brothers who, before Sevastopol, in the midst of an exceptional winter, astonished all Europe by their courage and endurance. A national subscription was opened throughout the United Kingdom. A London newspaper once depicted Christmas in an English guard camp. The scene is most picturesque. It takes place in the Transvaal. A few days before Christmas, ships loaded with foals, puddings, and liquors set sail for the Black Sea. On December 25th, English soldiers joyfully celebrated their Christmas and drank to the triumph and prosperity of Old England. It is a spectacle of strange beauty. It seems like waves of light undulating in the darkness. All these pious communities gather together at the centre of the parish around a circle of motionless torches. English Catholics give the religious festival of Christmas the greatest solemnity. One must go to the beautiful and rich oratory church in London to hear Palestrina's magnificent music. In Ireland, on Christmas Eve, a multitude of Catholic families emerge from their homes, each holding aloft a lit resin torch. The rifles are arranged in fascias, a garland of greenery runs across the cannons, a lit candle burns the tip of each bayonet, and the soldiers merrily clash their glasses around this new, style Christmas tree that reminds them all of the joys of their absent homeland. Note 9 Destly is, Noel, page 67. No matter where he is, on the deck of a ship, under the tent or the rough hut of the explorer, lost in polar ice, the Englishman, for an instant forgetting his sorrows, his fatigue, his dangers, never fails to give old Christmas the welcome joy and hope it deserves. Let us conclude with a beautiful page from Viscount Walsh, telling of a midnight mass in exile. It was in northern England, in a lovely castle, at Standon Hall, the home of Lord Southwell, a fervent Catholic who, during the dark days, had offered shelter to his parents and friends from France. We were there on Christmas Day. The night before, we had hung garlands of bright green holly with berries that looked like coral pearls. In the chapel, the altar, tabernacle, pews, and candelabras were made of polished mahogany, adorned with golden ornaments, and a thick carpet in the brightest colours covered the steps leading to the little sanctuary. Snow and cold were outside, but within this blessed space all was clean, warm, and comfortable. It has been a long time since then. Since that Christmas party, I have counted many All Souls' Day Eves, many days of the dead. Among those who sang then before the altar of Standon Hall, some sing today before God in heaven. In the gallery, facing the altar, reserved seats were surrounded by a crimson silk curtain. Behind this veil stood the pipe organ, and those who were to sing. Lady Southwell, sister of my mother, Lady Gormanston, her daughter, Mesdemoiselles de Choiseul, her nieces, formed this family choir. Many years, diverse fortunes have befallen me since Merry Christmas time. I have heard musical masses by Mozart and Rossini, and all these years, all these diverse fortunes, all these great talents have been unable to erase from my memory the Christmas Mass sung in exile. English ritualists are excusable to a certain extent in imagining that they are Catholic, as ceremonies dating back 8 centuries still take in their churches, and have survived all the changes introduced by Protestantism into the Anglican Church. Among these ceremonies, the offering of gold, incense, and myrrh by the Queen of England every year on Epiphany, following the example of the three kings, stands out. This custom dates back to ancient times. For over 800 years, English sovereigns presented their offerings in person, until it ended during the reign of George I, when Princess Caroline died on the eve of Epiphany. Since then, the sovereign is entered by two gentlemen of his chamber. The ceremony takes place in the royal chapel at St. James's Palace, and this is how it is conducted. We begin by reciting the morning prayer, after which the Protestant Bishop of London, assisted by the Dean of the Royal Chapel, conducts the communion service. The Bishop of London meets them and presents a vermeil platter on which they place the Queen's offerings. These are contained within a red silk bag, embroidered with gold, and consist of 3 sealed white paper packets with red wax seals. The first 2 packages contain myrrh and incense. In the third are 5 newly minted gold sovereigns distributed to poor people from neighbouring parishes. Since 1859, coins have replaced the beaten gold leaves that formed the third offering. Following the recitation of the Nicene Creed, the 10 choristers of the Royal Chapel, in their picturesque scarlet costumes with white collars, sing the antenem, "I have prayed for wisdom from you." Then the 2 gentlemen of the chamber, in court dress with swords at their sides, advance towards the altar, preceded by a herald carrying a silver staff. With their mission complete, the gentlemen of the chamber retire, with the same ceremony observed for their arrival, and the service ends with great solemnity. Germany Christmas Day in Germany, Weihnachten Holy Night, is as popular as it is in England, but it has a more serious and religious character. Note 20 Rue, old plural form, now uncommon except in very rare cases. Children, little angels or little shepherds, form processions and walk through the villages singing pastoral hymns. In some rural areas, the mysteries of Christmas are still performed with charming naivety. In Catholic countries, the midnight mass is celebrated with great pomp. In several villages, singers gather at the top of the church tower at dawn on Christmas Day. Often one sees the Madonna, Saint Joseph, Saint Nicholas with his long beard and carrying a crook in his hand, Saint Martin riding a white horse, and always there is the necked Ruprecht, the terror of naughty children and the joy of well-behaved children to whom he brings gifts. The inhabitants are awakened by the songs of O Joyful, O Blessed Grace, filled Christmas time, O Joyous, O Happy Christmas Eve, so fertile in graces, resonating in the calm morning air. Archaeologists claim that most of the Christmas customs which exist in Germany had their origin in the old and dark forests of Germany, when the Teutons worshipped Wotan, the Scandinavian Odin, and his wife Berchtha, the Earth Mother. Before his visit, the fire is carefully extinguished in the hearth, but Wotan relights it. He prefers to set a log of oak ablaze. There are still districts in Germany where Wotan, with his cap pushed forward on his forehead, his grey cloak, and riding on his white horse, visits the cottages of the peasants. The Christmas log must burn under the ashes, it must not flare up, and in southern Germany the ashes are kept carefully and scattered over the fields to ensure their fertility. After Mass comes the Mettenwurst midnight meal. All members of the family gather together. From this meal, a touching custom, the remains are removed and placed in an illuminated room for the night. This is the share of Christ and the angels. It goes without saying to whom this share is intended. The favourite Christmas dish is a pigson with head with sausages and green cabbage added. Even the livestock have their share at the Christmas feast. Their hay ration is doubled. In some districts, it is believed that animals have the gift of speech at the beginning of the great celebration in the universe. Those who are said to have the good ear can hear them softly talking about the manger in which Christ was born while chewing their cud. One not only needs the good ear to hear animals speak, but also to have no sin on one's conscience. It is tradition at the Berlin court that every Christmas Eve, the second in command of the 1st Company of the 1st Regiment of the Foot Guard offers a honey cake to the sovereign. The imperial prince and the other sons of William will receive similar cakes from the 1st Company of the 1st Guard Regiment. However, while the sovereigns and the heir apparent's cakes measure 30 fex 20 hunks 8 centimetres, those of the other princes are only 30x 18x 5 centimetres. In the past, these cakes were made in Thorn, but for several years now a pastry chef from Potsdam has been responsible for their creation. The Christmas cake is iced and features the Guard's star and a dedicatory inscription. Emperor William never misses the ceremony of presenting the cake and invites the officers tasked with this pleasant mission to dine with him. On the eve of Christmas, all of Germany is in celebration along the Rhine as well as the Danube and Elbe rivers, from Mayenne to Vienna 21, from Ko Nigsberg to Munich. Not a single family has failed to don their festive attire. Merchants display to the crowd with taste and flair all sorts of items that can serve as gifts for children. Note tutti quanti, in much of Austria, Christmas customs are virtually the same as in Germany. The children's Christmas holds such importance that it is prepared long in advance. On the squares of most towns stand little wooden houses as elegant in shape, as they are brightly coloured. Nuremberg Toys 22 are the most sought-after dolls of every kind, some as shepherdesses, some as grand ladies, some as cooks, some as peasants, Jack in the boxes of all sizes, lead soldiers, cannons, rifles, sabres and drums. Further on stands the Hamburg pastry cook with her crispy waffles and beautifully crafted spiced breads in the shapes of dogs, horses, cats and sheep. Then come games of all sorts forgets, top, ring toys with bells, goose games, patience games. Note tutti tutti, Nuremberg's articles are very famous. One can see them displayed at the National Museum in Munich. Parents take their children there and try to catch the expression of their desires in a glance or a word. They buy the coveted item discreetly and distribute it at the right moment for Christmas. They are mostly made in the Black Forest, where Triberg, one of the main centres of clock trade known as Cocos, is located. But what dominates all popular festivities in Germany, making Christmas the children's festival and the day for New Year's gifts, is the Christmas tree Weihnachtsbaum 23. Nowhere does it present itself in more captivating forms with the gift that appreciated. Note 23 tree in northern Germany, especially in Berlin, the Christmas tree is often replaced by pyramids made from an assembly of boards and small logs. This stems from the difficulty of obtaining fir trees. To pique the children's curiosity and make them look at Christmas gifts as mysterious, almost miraculous, Father tells them that St. Nicholas der Weihnachtsmann spends the rest of the year high in the mountains, surrounded by a whole court of dwarfs. Every night one of these dwarfs guards the fissure in the rock that serves as an entrance, and another dwarf replaces him at dawn of the following day. After 365 guards, the last returns, shouting, "It's almost Christmas." Then St. Nicholas and his court emerge from their rest. They go into the forest armed with saws and axes. With zeal they cut the fir trees 24, intended for the festival, and decorate them with the snow that covers the land and the ice hanging from the trees. Then they place them on sledges and convey them to their underground palace. There they adorn them with candles, golden apples, nuts, and candies. If so, quickly he descends to his home, takes a beautiful tree covered with gifts, and brings it to the house 25. With Christmas night come, and stars shining in the sky, Father Christmas travels by sleigh through the surrounding villages to find out if the children have been good. He ensures this by looking through the windows. Note 25, according to Bernard Zornmann. In some families, on the advice of their mother, children write a letter to the child Jesus, the night before Christmas, asking for the things they desire: a knife, a ball, a bicycle, Indian stories. Often the list is endless. Note 24. The fir trees intended as Christmas trees come primarily from the Harz Mountains. The Black Forest also provides great amounts of it. No mountain range in Germany is as rich in grand landscapes and delightful sights. The lower heights are mostly covered with pine and fir trees with fresh, invigorating scents. Why limit oneself? The child Jesus is so rich. Here comes Christmas Eve here and there. Some houses light up in the streets. You can hear children's laughter. This is the time. A jingle rings out in the room. It's the expected sign. Both doors to the living room swing open wide. What magnificence! What wealth! Dazzled, the children stop for a minute, then spring forward. Here is the tree they had dreamed of, but more beautiful, more brilliant. Its branches reach the ceiling. On each one are blue, green, and yellow candles. Red, cheeked apples and golden nuts. Cakes and marzipan hang from the side. Coloured glass balls, multi-coloured garlands, silver stars, and gold crescents gleam in the light. There's even snow on the tree, but it's not real, it's white fluff. Joyful, artificial birds and butterflies swing from the branches. Oh, and these groups of angels, what splendour! Red, blue, green, and yellow threads climb from branch to branch until the top. At the peak is the Christmas angel with her blonde hair and wings full of light. At the foot of the tree are the gifts: dolls, cradles, houses for little girls, trumpets, lead soldiers, guns, drums for little boys. Joyful cries do not cease. Look, the beautiful pictures from my book! Hold on! Note 26.3, these glass objects are mainly made in Lostia, Thuringia. Every year considerable quantities are shipped throughout Germany. Manufacturers offer 200 or 300, depending on size, for the sum of 3 to 5 marks, 3 for 75 to 6 for 25. All sleep, only the tender holy pair 20th still keeps watch. Beautiful child with curly hair, sleep in your celestial quiet. Repeat. Note 27, Mary and Joseph. My horse has a real man. Then the mother sits down at the piano, the children hold hands and sing the old, popular carol Still Nacht. Heilige Nacht, which we translate literally as Silent Night, Holy Night, Christ by the birth, bis. Then come friendship's outpourings, endless thanks, joy shines in every eye, the secret desires have been guessed. Christmas is the most beautiful day of the year. Finally, Grandma reads from the Bible. Silent night, holy night announced first to the shepherds by the angel's Alleluia. The news spreads far and wide, Christ, the Saviour, is here. Bis. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's sweet smile on thy divine lip doth dwell. When the salvation hour does chime, in a trembling and pious voice, she recites the story of the Saviour who was born in a stable and laid in a manger. The children listen to this tale they already know, yet each year it seems more enchanting. Sometimes on Lochs, on the eve of Christmas, a tree loaded with small candles, sweets, apples, and toys in a closet, which is opened at the most unexpected moment to give children the pleasure of surprise. Goethe, in his famous Werther novel, makes an allusion to this custom. Note 28.3. This custom is fading, young children are afraid of him, and their health may suffer, older ones no longer believe in him. In popular belief, this Knecht Ruprecht is the same as St. Nicholas or the English Santa Claus. He is well known throughout central and northern Germany. Surrounded by her little brothers and sisters, Charlotte tells one of them, hiding her concern behind a pleasant smile, "You will have, if you are good, a coloured candle and something else." In some families, it is still customary for the valet Rupert, Knecht Ruprecht, or Nicholas the Bald, to appear before the distribution of gifts. He wears a fur coat, and a very thick beard covers his face. A wide bonnet with long hair adorns his head. On his back he carries a sack full of toys and treats, and in his hand a wand, as part of his mission is to punish naughty children. He is now the messenger of the child Jesus, although he owes his origins to pagan customs. In other parts of Germany, St. Nicholas and St. Martin are the messengers of the infant Jesus. In Germany, Catholics have adopted St. Martin, and Protestants St. Nicholas, but neither is separated from the child Jesus. St. Martin is the famous bishop of Tours, and St. Nicholas is the equally famous bishop of Myra in Lussia. Their feasts fall around Christmas time 29, and it is probably for this reason that their names are mixed with the rejoicings of this feast. In German pious families, children are reminded that it is not St. Martin or St. Nicholas with his material gifts who is the main visitor during the Holy Vigil. but the child Jesus who comes later with his divine graces. In homes where the coming of the child Jesus is depicted, he enters with a gingerbread heart in his hand, symbolizing the renewed heart he brings to all who await him. For their part, the children hold out a glass of wine to refresh the child Jesus and a bundle of straw for the donkey he rides on. When he appears, they sing a charming, childlike Christmas carol. Christkindle. Come into us. The boot is for the donkey, for the child the glass. And we know how to pray too. We have a bundle of straw and also a glass of wine. The bundle for the donkey, for the child Jesus the glass, and we can also pray. Dear little child Jesus, come down to our house. We have a bundle of straw and also a glass of wine. Note 29 true, St. Martin's Day is November 11th and St. Nicholas's Day is December 6th. Neck Ruprecht is often portrayed by some household friend who, so as not to be recognized by children, wears a fur hat, a long beard, and a tall staff, as we mentioned above. This custom is recounted in the journal Des Voyages. On the evening of December 24th, in a well-lit room, the Christmas tree decorated with objects and treats is set up. The children are divided between hope and fear. In one hand she holds a bell, and in the other a basket filled with candies. Suddenly, a loud clanging of metal resounds, and soon Nicholas the Hairy appears, his body covered with a bearskin. Suddenly a bell rings, the door opens, and Christkindle appears. She is a young woman dressed in white and wearing a hemp wig. Her figure is smeared with flour to make her unrecognizable, and she wears a crown on her head. His entirely black face is framed by a great beard. In a deep, resonant voice, he asks who the naughty children are. Then the good parents intervene, pleading on behalf of the little culprits, begging for their indulgence, and promising, in their name, exemplary behavior for the future. Many Bavarian soldiers, housed at the Peter Sete Meneole Annes in La Chapelle, St. Mesmin, requested one of the study rooms, and set up their Christmas tree there. The demon is driven out of the house, and soon all one hears around the Christmas tree, object of all desires, a loud laughter and childish applause. Note 30 true, Kindle means little child, Christkindle means little child Jesus. Note 30 Horn, Germans are characterized by fair, light hair and blue eyes. During the 1870 war, it was not one of the least surprising things for the French peasants, invaded to see Prussians, Bavarians, Saxons, Württembergians, etc., and even the Alans themselves, gathering fraternally around small trees decorated with lights and singing choruses, glorifying the coming of the Messiah. They sang their finest songs in honor of the child Jesus, and listened with profound reverence to a very eloquent speech by their military chaplain. On the occasion of Christmas, German officers grant leave to soldiers under their command. However, in accordance with the principle that the regiment is a second family, the officers strive to provide them with some festive recreation on this solemn occasion. But one must consider the demands of service. Not everyone can be sent on leave. After the departure of the privileged ones who spend Christmas at home, a large number of soldiers remain in quarters. The evening before Christmas, each Hauptmann captain receives from the ordinary commission a sum of around 100 marks, approximately 25 francs, for the purchase of a Christmas tree. On sets up a beautiful fir tree, all decked out with little candles, in the largest room of the barracks assigned to the company. Tables are arranged around the tree, covered with crisp white cloths, on which cigars wrapped in warm woolen threads. Pepper cakes Pfefferkuchen around, which pairs of suspenders, socks, and gym belts are wound, photos, portraits of the emperor, etc., are placed at the ends, framing pipes. In the back of the room, a barrel of beer majestically rests on an improvised stand. Night has fallen. The captain had already arrived with his officers, and is waiting in the chief's room. The committee of non-commissioned officers and soldiers in charge of preparing the party enters. The sergeant major steps forward and says, "My captain, everything is ready. Very well. And what about the barrel of beer?" "He is in place, captain." "Perfect. Would you have the men come?" 5 minutes later, the whole company is there. A deep silence hangs over the audience. The captain then enters the room, and immediately the soldiers sing in chorus, "O joyful, O radiant, blessed Christmas-time world was lost. Christ is born, rejoice, Christianity." After the song, the sergeant major puts into a hat a number of tickets equal to the number of men present. Each soldier, in turn, draws one and takes possession of the corresponding gift. The drawing is complete. The barrel is opened. A patriotic gesture from a German Journal 32 allows us to complete our account of Christmas customs in the lands beyond the Rhine. The captain, holding a glass, moves to the centre. After a short speech of the situation, he concludes with these words, "To your health, men, I wish you all a happy holiday." After a few minutes, having chatted amicably with the soldiers, the Hauptmann retires to present his personal greetings to the non-commissioned officers. Note 32. It is the Frankfurter Zeitung, the Frankfurt Gazette, that recounts this charming incident, full of patriotism and religious spirit. This was in 1870, during the siege of Paris. The night was glacial, and thousands of stars shimmered in the firmament. French and German were so close that from one post to another one could clearly hear calls resonating and weapons clanking on the hardened ground by a freezing frost of the most intense kind. It might have been midnight. Suddenly, a French soldier, after asking permission from his captain, climbed over the ditch and advanced a few steps towards the enemy. There he stopped, saluted militarily, and with a powerful, deep voice, singing full-throatedly, he intoned midnight. "Christians, it is the solemn hour when God, man, descended to us." And on the German side, the same impression must have been conveyed, for not a sound of arms or a word was heard. This appearance was so unexpected, so mysterious, this voice resonated so harmoniously in the calm of the night, this magistral song borrowed such grandeur, such beauty from the circumstances, that everyone, the captain of mobiles, a witness to the event of 33, Parisians, sceptics, and taunters, we were hanging on the singer's lips. Note 33. Captain X from a mobile battalion in Paris himself recounted this event. The singer belonged to one of the capital's grand theatres. When the final words of the Adamic canticle, "Single will rise! Christmas!" he advanced, just as the Frenchman had, taking a few steps and saluting with the rigidity characteristic of his country's soldiers. "Here comes the Redeemer," rang out amidst the general silence like a bugle call signalling victory. The soldier returned to his post, where he was greeted by all his comrades. But immediately after, on the German side, another soldier emerged in turn. He was a handsome artilleryman, wearing his helmet. There, between these two armies of men who up to that moment had only thought of slaughtering each other, he sang in German a beautiful Christmas carol, an anthem of gratitude and faith to Jesus the child, who was born 18 centuries ago and came to preach to men the love for their brothers. Not a sound, not a hostile movement from the French side came to disturb the voice of the German singer. When, with growing emotion, he had repeated the last words of the refrain, "Christmas time, Christmas time," the entire German post joined in chorus. Note 34, Christmas time, Christmas time. The idea of Christmas, with the memory of family feasts and divine teachings, had thus transformed these men and instilled in their hearts feelings of the most fraternal charity 35. And from our trenches the French post responded in one voice, "Christmas! Christmas! Long live Christmas!" For a moment the two enemy armies were thus united in a common thought of cordiality and peace. Note 35. Ficru, we are told that a similar event at the trench of Le Pas, Tri-Ri, near Choisy, Le Roy. Christmas in southern countries, Italy, Naples, Sicily, Spain. Christmas! Christmas. From there, in Italy and Spain, Christmas customs are all more boisterous, in a word, an expression of a more expansive and quintessentially southern joy. They are no less characterized by the essential religious nature found in northern countries. Italy let us first salute Rome, the city of the Caesars, the capital of the Catholic world, the residence of the sovereign pontiff. We have had the pleasure of visiting her at different times, and sometimes we have made quite long stays there. Day of Hope and Love. Cries a foreign writer. Is there a people in the Christian world where the return of this festival is not celebrated by customs, games, songs, and traditions that vary according to the soil and climate, taking on the hues of national character, gay or sombre, sad or merry, depending on whether they've been created by a vivid or melancholic imagination, and more or less friendly to mystery. Indeed, the conditions of the milieu have a predominant effect on popular rejoicings. In the southern countries, where the sun shines in all its splendour under a sky of azure unclouded by any mist, where one enjoys starry nights, the gentle sea breezes and caressing air, life is, so to speak, entirely outdoors, while in the northern countries, where cold snow ice and biting winds ring inhabitants seal themselves up in their homes for entire months and gather around the hearth where a great log from the forest crackles and sparkles. We never left without carrying away an ardent desire to see this city forever illustrious where all peoples have passed, where all glories have shone, where all cultivated imaginations have made, at least from afar, a pilgrimage. The scholar and erudite find there the richest libraries and the most authentic documents on the origin of the Church and its history through the centuries. Rome holds a special place in our hearts. The tourist offers grandiose monuments of Roman antiquity, circoducts, obelisks, fountains, forums, triumphal arches. Its many churches are of incomparable richness, its museums filled with the most beautiful works of sculpture, painting and mosaic. In its magnificent palaces, gold, marble, and frescoes from great masters abound. The Christian venerates of the holy apostles in every church, the most sacred remains of great saints. He kisses with a mixed emotion of tears the dust of the gigantic Colosseum, saturated with the blood of martyrs. He enters with reverence and piety into the immense catacombs, where he feels all the memories of the early ages revive within him. It is here that young clerics from all countries of the West and East, America and the islands, come to complete their studies. They follow the lessons of the most eminent professors and strive to attain the highest degrees in theology and canon law. They have kindly sent us notes on Christmas customs in their respective countries. We do not know how to express our gratitude. 36. Note 36 Lemazix. Abba B, from the procure of Saint Sulpice in Rome, has been, for us many times, the most intelligent and devoted among intermediaries and correspondents. The entire month of December in Rome serves as preparation for Christmas. Upon the conclusion of Advent, the graceful shepherds known as pifferari, or fiddle players, from the Italian word piffero, meaning fife, as their fife was once their preferred instrument, descend into the streets and come to announce the great popular feast 37. This is one of the most innocent and moving traditions of centuries of faith. They usually appear in groups of three: an old man, a mature man, and a child. Thus, they recall an ancient belief that only 3 shepherds are present at the nativity scene. It is said that they represent the happy shepherds who went to the manger to venerate the child Jesus, and indeed the use of these 9 day chants preparatory to Christmas is immemorial. Note 37.3. They mostly come from Sabin and the Abruzzes. They walk down the streets, playing their rural instruments to accompany their songs. These innocent melodies, reminiscent of the great mystery of Bethlehem and the return of joyful days, awaken faith and piety in most of the faithful. Note 38.3. The biniou of the Bretons is a type of bagpipe. The costume of the pifferari is in harmony with their pious canzonetta cantate, little song. Their instruments are simple like all those of shepherds. It is the oboe, a wind instrument with a reed, whose clear and piercing sound is both dull and plaintive, especially in the lower notes. It is the bagpipe, a rural musical instrument, to which air is provided with a bellows that rises or falls with the movement of the arm, an horrible ensemble of stretched and inflated skins that produce nasally, sounding but melancholically sweet tones 38. It is the fifth, a kind of small flute with a high pitch. the chalumeau, and more rarely the triangle. The Highlanders Scottish mountaineers call it pibrochry. It is in use in some Scottish regiments. It is the bagpipe, a wind instrument with bellows and pipes. In the countries of Ceylon and Berry, the bagpipe is sometimes called cheavor, because the bladder of this instrument is often made from the skin of this animal. Note 39 les Troyes Rome, vol. IP. A pointed Tyrolean hat adorned with an aigrette or multi, coloured ribbons, and tilted on the ear, a short jacket, a thick brown or blue cloak, leather breeches or goatskin trousers, shoes ending with a sole that attaches to the foot with straps. Add to this long black hair falling on the shoulders, a fine beard, bright eyes, a high forehead, a slow and uncertain gait, and you will have an idea of this costume and this remarkable figure. Contemplating them, one cannot help but think of these pink-faced cherubs, these charming and soft heads where light seems to put an aureole, and of which Fra Angelico do Fiesel longed for in his knees 40. Note 4 Paul Vier Run, from Pithiviers 1:90. We met these street artists in the streets of Rome on the eve of Christmas. They are beautiful to look at, especially these children with their melancholic faces, already grave and dreamy, with large, wonderfully blue eyes, of that bright and transparent blue, clear and deep like the sky and sea of Italy, with their silky, curly hair full of golden reflections. His works, in prose and verses, written in a style full of charms, reveal the poetic spirit and the ideally beautiful soul of our excellent friend, who died piously on Good Friday, 1888. The Pifferari carry out with conscience the pious function that their fathers have entrusted to them. Standing and bareheaded, they play in front of the images of the Donna in front of them. They make the Nina Nana heard. They are hired for novenas or a serenade every day during the celebrations. Note 41, these two words can be translated as go to sleep, go to sleep. They never fail to arrive on time, all the more cheerful as they satisfy both the devotion of their court and the needs of their purse. They triumph on Christmas Eve. So many they are that day, so joyful are their concerts that they erase those of previous days. Immaculate Virgin, blessed in heaven and on earth, be our advocate. Christmas night is holy night. Let this prayer that is sung be represented to baby Jesus. A Ninna Nanna is a lullaby or song intended to put small children to sleep. Italian singers address the Holy Virgin. O Virgin Mary, daughter of Saint Anne, within your womb you bore good Jesus. The angels cried, Come, saints. Go to the manger of the infant Jesus, born in a little stable, where the ox and ass were eating. The last stanza is a moving prayer that is fitting both for the Virgin Mary and the mystery of this day. O Immaculate Virgin, blessed in heaven, be our advocate on earth. The night of Christmas is a holy night. Present to the infant Jesus the prayer we have sung. Sometimes in the streets of Rome one encounters poor blind people singing as they strum their mandolins or guitars songs dedicated to the child Jesus. Here is one of the most popular, Sleep, Sleep in my bosom. Sleep, O my flower of Nazareth, my heart shall be your cradle in the lullaby. Sleep, sleep upon my breast. Sleep, O my flower of Nazareth, upon my heart you will be rocked and coddled and caressed. These small theatres on which they move wooden or cardboard figurines are greeted with shouts of joy by children. Note 43. Nowadays, one can still see in Rome groups of musicians during the Christmas period, but the graceful instruments of old are becoming increasingly rare. Most often they have been replaced by nosy trombones and shrill clarinets, and more frequently they only give concerts for Amancia Christmas tips. A few days before Christmas, one sometimes encounters mountain dwellers, dressed in their picturesque costumes, who make marionettes dance to the sound of their rustic instruments. They are for them celestial messengers who announce candies and all sorts of toys. They replace in their imagination the Santa Claus, all bundled up from the northern regions, and they are not awaited with less impatience. What a delightful sight the shops of Rome offer during the Christmas week. White madones adorn the facades, or sparkle inside amidst the lights. Goods arranged on shelves with perfect taste are dominated by a beautiful statue of the Virgin, who, on a throne of greenery and flowers, is truly the queen of the house. A lamp burns day and night before her. Small shops spring up like magic along all streets bordering the Tiber. Children, accompanied by their parents, head preferentially towards St. Eustache Square and Navone Square, filled with improvised stores displaying a pileup of candies and toys of all kinds. From morning to night, it's a true assault from a whole people of 7 to 10-year-old buyers. For the Roman, Christmas is truly the Capo d'Anno, the year's day. It is at Christmas that communities exchange Agnus Dei framed in reliquaries and even cakes. Even under Pope Pio VI, the Pope received gifts from the College of Apostolic Notaries. On Christmas Eve, corn cakes blessed by the priests of the parishes are sent to parents and friends. These cakes are more or less large, depending on the importance of the gift one wants to make. Lesnel de La Salle reports 44 that once the Prince Borghese received one embroidered with his arms that measured no less than 6 meters in width. He had 24 enormous portions made, which were distributed to as many poor people. Note 43, Beliefs and Legends, Vol. IP 12. This year, 1904. The reception of cardinals by the Pope of the Vatican for the presentation of wishes took on an entirely intimate character. But the most coveted item by children, the best New Year's wishes, is a Principio. On the eve of Christmas, each cardinal expressed himself verbally in his own name. No address was read, and the Pope did not deliver a speech, but he had cordial conversations with each cardinal. The sovereign pontiff then received the pontifical antechamber and the officers of his guard. This refers to a wax cradle scene depicting the child Jesus lying on straw, Mary and Joseph in adoration beside him, and in the distance, a donkey and a cow seemingly warming the Saviour of the world with their breath. There are large roadside crutches of various prices. The most appealing for little Romans are those covered with a crystal globe. They triumphantly carry their Principio and place it with honour in their decorated chamber to worship it each night as a family. Note 45. Rome's most beautiful croce is still found in the ancient church of Aracoeli on the Capitol. These representations of the Nativity are usually preserved from Christmas to Epiphany. Once, in some churches, they were hidden on St. Innocent's Day, in memory of Jesus' flight into Egypt. The renowned Florentine painter Luca della Robbia excelled in crafting clay nativity scenes. Let us recall a graceful and naive custom in Rome that makes Christmas, like everywhere else, the preferred festival for children. We are talking about the little preachers of Aracoeli. During the Christmas holidays, people from all neighborhoods of the city come to this church dedicated to the Virgin Mary to pay their respects to San Bambino. Everyone knows him. Everyone comes to seek his intercession. It's not uncommon for him to be taken to desperate patients, and remarkable healings are said to occur in his presence. Such is Rome's fame that even those who, in 1849, oppressed the Pope and insulted the priests, pretended to respect him and gave him the finest carriage available at the Quirinal for his visits to the sick. The statue of San Bambino is made of olive wood. Its robe is covered with sapphires, emeralds, and topazes, gifts from the piety of devoted followers. A diamond-studded sun gleams on its chest. Necklaces adorn its neck, each more precious than the last, as a token of the many cures attributed to the touch of San Bambino and corroborated by very credible testimonies. It remains on display from Christmas until Epiphany in a beautifully decorated side chapel. There it is, surrounded by all the characters who bore witness to the mystery of Bethlehem. When the time comes to conceal it from view, the Franciscan monks of the Aracoeli convent carry it in procession up the church threshold, and with it bless the crowd. Few ceremonies in Rome attract such a gathering, the 120. 4 steps leading to the church, every degree of the Capitol, all the balconies are filled with devout people awaiting this blessing as a most precious grace. It is before the San Bambino that the children of Rome come to preach. Against the adjacent pillar leans a small, pulpit, young orators, aged 7 to 12, take turns there to deliver, in their innocent language, praises of the little Jesus. 2 months before the feast, father, mother, brothers and sisters, everyone is on the move within families. Some are composing, others rehearsing with the young novice his Christmas sermon. When I arrived, Rome a little girl occupied the chair. Judging by her size, she could be no older than 8. She spoke with much grace and vivacity. Her gestures were natural, her tone just and varied. The peroration was pathetic. The speaker fell to his knees, stretched out his small hands towards his bambino, offered a nave prayer, then gave his blessing absolutely, as an old preacher would have done. Note 46. Lock, sit. I pee. 4:59. It is therefore no surprise that for 8 days, from 10 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, there was a crowd at Aracoeli. Here we must speak of an imaginary character who used to play a significant role in Italy's popular Christmas customs. 47. This word, which is obviously a corruption Bifania, or Epiphania, means marionette or ghost. Note 47, see Dizionario de Tradition by Moroni, Spain, Tom. If pp. 278-282. We call Befana figure dressed in rags, who is taken for a walk in Italy on the night of Epiphany, and is amused by hanging from windows on the very day of the festival. This custom has almost completely vanished. Varchi and Bini portray Befana as an old woman with red eyes, thick lips, and a furrowed face. James Grimm 48 states that Befana is a deformed, black, ugly fairy who brings gifts to children. In Germany, he adds, Aunt Ari plays a similar role. Her legend is said to originate from French Comté. She attends the harvest, presides over rustic festivities, rewards diligent spinners, causes fruits to fall from trees for well-behaved children, and gives them nuts and cakes at Christmas. The title of aunt seems to have replaced that of fairy, as it is commonly used to refer to a generally benevolent person. Note 48, German Mythology Dictionary, Seville Befana. In Italy, her role would be that of the Santa Claus, or the feared wicked witch to children. If they are not good, parents threaten to tell the Befana about their misbehavior. She brings gifts to obedient children. To the naughty ones, she leaves only ash and coal. As the 3 wise men came from the east, and one of them was black, children are told that the Befana is also black, and that at that time she undertakes a great journey to reward or punish. Mothers and governesses threaten their bambini with the Befana, who they say is neither kind nor generous to bad children. On January 5th, the eve of Epiphany, around 10 in the evening, Place Xavon, the largest and most imposing square in Rome after Ste. Among the gifts attributed to her in Rome, we notice golden pine cones that remind one of the incense, and gold brought by the wise men. In Tuscany, she is depicted as a fairy who enters houses at night. She fills shoes placed near the fireplace with candies and toys. Peter's Square is lit up like day and has a magical atmosphere. Street vendors set up their mobile shops filled with an infinite variety of treats, fruits, and toys. There are even pastry shops and cafes for parents, godparents, and teachers who come in large numbers to spoil their children, godchildren, and students. People shout, dance, play drums, shake bells, and even pots. The main items for sale are brass trumpets called bifane. A traveller who visited last winter the churches of Rome, at Christmas time, saw everywhere in the crochets the infant Jesus covered with a thick veil, John the Baptist. The same noise occurs with the little bells sold on the Piazza del Latron. Herod and his family undoubtedly occupy a large place in the minds of Italians. Children buy them and go into the streets, blowing the trumpets all evening and night, making sleep impossible. This noisy demonstration is said to be aimed at King Herod, who is to be punished for his cruelty towards the innocents. Note 49, the eve of Ste. When he asked for the reason, they answered him, "It is to hide him from Herod's fury." According to some authors 50, the Befana would be Salome, Herod's daughter, who had St. John the Baptist beheaded. Her story made a great impression on the imagination of the Middle Ages, and the legend quickly took hold to mix its fables with it. Thus, When, at the famous feast, they presented her with the saint's decapitated head, she wanted to kiss it, but a violent gust of wind blew into her face, and instantly she disappeared enchanted, and was condemned to follow the parade of evil spirits. 51. Note for 50 Jack Scrim. Lock sit. This reminds a little of the solemn masses of the Eastern rites, Armenian, Greek, etc., where the consecration is accomplished to the sound of bells that the deacon and subdeacon wave from each side of the celebrant. Note 51. Another legend tells that Herod's daughter, as punishment for her crime, had her head cut off by an icicle at the moment she crossed a river whose ice cracked beneath her feet. At the Cathedral of Genoa, during midnight mass, at the Gloria in Excelsis, all the children in attendance ring a cacophony of clay bells that do not suit the sanctity of the place. These bells are attached to the end of a meter staff that carries a round copper or silver plate. They produce a harmonious sound due to the movement given to them. This instrument is called quae chuas, 52 note 52 3, Libron, explication discotaimonis de la messe, vol. Aie. Moreover, throughout the entire Christmas Eve, these same little bells introduce the festivities in all the streets of Genoa in a rather amusing way. In some cities in Italy, one can still see what is called la rota della Befana. It's a circle of children singing loudly around a large bonfire. This custom still exists in Mandello on the shores of Lake Lecco. A large procession, preceded by barbaric music and a picturesque masquerade, escorts La Befana, the old woman who bears the lily and the rush. According to legend, she comes on Christmas Day to distribute toys and treats to well-behaved children. The festivities end in the village square with a bonfire in which the effigy of the old woman is burned to be reborn from her ashes the following year. In the same village of Mandello, the leader of the people, Il Capo del Popolo, dressed in a special costume and surrounded by a large crowd, offers a cauldron of steaming soup to the infant Jesus, revered in a nativity scene set up on the main square. At the foot of an improvised altar, jars filled with water are placed on a carpet and picked up the next day. They serve as pious offerings to friends, as it is believed that this water has acquired particular virtues while it was left before the nativity scene. In the same region, in the valley of Rosalecco, people still act out mysteries dating back to the Middle Ages at Christmas time. They depict the procession of shepherds and the three wise men, dressed in costumes they are proud to wear, and ascend neighbouring snow-covered heights while singing. A clerk leads the way, holding high the bright star kings, and shepherds follow in order, and make their way to a precipio set up in a hermitage atop the mountain. In Tuscany and other parts of Italy, the Christmas log is held in high regard. Sometimes, even in popular language, the Christmas holiday is referred to by this single word seppo, the log. Children have their eyes covered. Then they must spin around the log and hit it with tweezers, while singing the canzonetta known as the Ave Maria of the log. This song has the power to bring down a shower of toys and candy upon them, according to the generosity of the helpers. Note 53p, Fontani S. V. A sort of frenzy of pleasure and distraction seizes the entire population, and for a period of 8 days it is a movement, an enthusiasm, a kind of furia, from which nothing can give an idea. Seppo Naples, the view of Naples with its azure, tinged gulf, its shores dotted with white villas, its picturesque promontories, and the smoking cone of Mount Vesuvius, is one of the most enchanting sights in the world. Nowhere is Christmas more lively than in Naples. The week preceding Christmas is called, in Naples, the Bancaral Week, literally the Counter's Week. In 1904, it ended in a bath of light and azure 54. Note 54 true. We borrow some details from Naples newspapers. We strive to translate them as literally as possible, in order to preserve the nuances of a style full of delicacy and originality. A spring like gentleness has smiled upon these last days of the year. Usually so rainy in Naples thus, the happiness of small traders is complete. The Christmas market for 8 days an aspect of the most appealing, like all customs of this population half Eastern and half Spanish. Infinite boutiques rise up in Naples, Grand Central Street, Via di Roma, Gia Toledo Rome Street, once at Tolda 55. A jubilant crowd fills it and overflows into adjacent alleyways, squares, and quays. Cheers, universal joy, carried to the highest pitch, a gigantic explosion of good mood and public felicity fueled by modest gains long prepared and eagerly awaited. All middle-class families restock on essentials and sometimes even superfluities. The Bankerel stalls display an array of most diverse forms and brightest colours. They stand in squares, outdoors, amidst thousands of rolling tents, where the aesthetic of the Neapolitan people arrange, in strange groups, the most varied and shiny objects. Note 55 tree when the Kingdom of Naples was annexed. The Italian government changed the name of the main street of Toledo to Via Roma in 1870. However, we have observed that for the people of Naples and local press, it is still known as Strada di Toledo. These are not just comestibles or utensils made from clay or glass in fantastical forms. These pleasant living bastions do not only serve the table. Along the bustling sidewalks of Via Toledo, Piazza Medna and Piazza della Libert, literature itself has its altars, its little decorated temples within the noisy Caracadabra of Neapolitan Christmas. In fact, there are countless Bankerel where serious and solemn books, pamphlets, ancient in folios and miniatures, every variety and subspecies of volumes, and especially manuscripts that cost so many sweat droplets, are neatly arranged. And curious and sympathetic public approaches these mountains of printed paper, and with studious glances seeks the desired work, perhaps overlooked by the bookseller. Sometimes for a few cents one buys a book of great value, or an entire lot of brochures with torn backs and frayed pages. On the eve of Christmas, after traversing numerous streets lined with greenery, fruit piles, pickled plums, cakes, liquors, one might think it's the last day it's acceptable to eat. And today, Christmas 1904, perhaps for the first time in 20 years, thanks to the beneficial rays of a spring sun, Naples can show all the dazzling beauty of its markets, enveloped in a nimbus of joy. The whole city is out today. Foreigners in ecstasy contemplate the spectacle as a fascinating fairy tale. What one must see above all is the picturesque fish market on the quay of St. Lucy. This is the great question of the day. Indeed, which Neapolitan does not eat capitone, a type of seafood, on the evening before Christmas? For dinner, the strict menu includes vermicelli and fish juice, smoky broccoli and oil, capitone a traditional and necessary dish for Christmas, usually a river or sea eel, sometimes a white and milky mudfish, and various types of seafood, note 57 tree. Neapolitans call them frutti di mare, which include oysters, crabs, lobsters, and shells of all varieties. How much is the capitone? Everywhere you hear people shouting, "Capitone viva, frick-seca, stew capitone, una lira e otto, capitone living." It still pulses with this capitone at 40 cents a franc. You must go visit Street Sainte, Brigitte, or Street Porto on the evening before Christmas. They are there, standing in front of their baskets, surrounded by lit candles, their jacket sleeves rolled up to their elbows. It's a fantastic scene worthy of Gerardo del Notti's brush. How beautiful to see these tanned sailors, old sea-wolves who, on their fishing boats, Paranziello, have defied many storms, and have voices like thunder accustomed to being heard amidst the noise of the waves. They sometimes stick their hands into these baskets filled with live eels. They grab the largest ones, twirl them in the air, and gesticulating, with all their vibrant Mediterranean energy, they have a sort of snake charmer look. At every street corner, the sellers from Procida 58 and Ischia attract attention with the curious costume of their island. Nothing more lively, more vibrant than the spectacle of Naples port on Christmas Eve, as the sun sets. Note 58 tree. On Christmas Day, St. Michael's Day and May 8th, the women of Procida wear their national dress, a red garment embroidered with gold, and they perform the country dance, the tarantelle. Yes, in Naples, Christmas is noisy and full cries of joy and jubilation that obliterate the desolate melancholy that permeates the vast undergrounds of this good, generous, and sympathetic population. Let no one believe, however, that Naples has become, by enchantment, the city of the dollar. For her, Christmas is merely a parenthesis of happiness and splendor, at the end of a year often saddened by many privations. The crowd there shows its mad, carefree joy, its inexhaustible loquacity, its spiritual and buffoonish vigor. As merchants announce their goods with 1,000 larzi, musicians play serenades, and amidst this indescribable hustle, the coracoli, little carts that cram in from 12 to 15 people bring workers from Portici and Resina, who come to supper outdoors, facing the sea in the Neapolitan style. In a word, nothing living, picturesque, or sparkling like this people in delirium under. The beautiful blue sky of Naples, turquoise by day, sapphire at night. How not to remember these beautiful verses of Lamartine, under this sky where life, where happiness abounds, on these shores that the eye takes pleasure in traversing. We have breathed this air from another world. Elvire, and yet they say one must be 59. There are two kinds of zampogna in use in southern Italy and Sicily. It is first a bagpipe composed of a skin sack and 3 pipes of different lengths. Nota 59 true, everyone knows this old saying that even the last Neapolitan repeats, Veda Napoli dopo mori, see Naples and die. Naples also has its Christmas musicians. They come from the depths of the Abruzzes and the gorges of Calabria. They are called zampagnari. 2 of these chalumocs always produce the same tone. The third is capable of varying its notes and resembles the oboe and clarinet. The continuous note from the larger chalumeau is called a borden, intended to provide the bass. That of the second usually gives the dominant. When heard from afar in the mountains, this unique blend of unchanging tones with melodic modulations makes one think they are hearing a tinting of bells rather than a musical instrument. There are also small zampons that consist of only a single chalumeau. We have before us an engraving that reproduces the graceful scene of Professor Becky from Rome. It is a zampagnaro practicing, playing the Christmas canticle, his instrument. Indeed, has no bell and resembles a small oboe. The roles and costumes of the zampagnari are largely similar to those of the pifferari in Rome. Like them, they don't hesitate to leave behind unnecessary baggage. A brown woolen coat serves them as a mattress and blanket at night. These poor mountain dwellers go from door to door, and the pious and charitable Neapolitans ask for novenas before an image of the Madonna or the Curé. The money they earn is used to feed their families for the rest of the year. In Naples, more so than in Rome, the Principio Curé plays a significant role in Christmas celebrations. In southern Italy, there are many cruaches that sometimes display a true artist's talent. Deep within a cave surrounded by rocks, one can see the stable and the Croacia where the Saviour was born. Around the San Bambino resting on straw, tiny wooden figurines, dressed in meticulously crafted winter, evening garments depict the Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph in ecstasy. At the entrance, little cherubim press their winged heads to get a closer look at the newborn. Then there is a procession of shepherds coming to offer their humble gifts. At the top of the cave shines the star that guided the Magi. He had arranged his pupazzi small statues behind brilliant display cases, enjoying showing them off to his visitors. They are surrounded by pages, armed men, grooms, and Nubian slaves leading camels. These figurines can sometimes be very expensive. There are goats and sheep signed vaccaro worth their weight in gold. A dramatic author had a passion for the nativity scene, the Neapolitan Dame Michel Cusiniello. One could find everything that could make up a nativity scene, from Archangel Gabriel to the humble peasant bringing her gifts in a basket, from Saint Joseph to the tavern keeper, from the Holy Virgin to the Black King. Michel the Dome offered to the city of Naples this treasure of art that one can visit at the Museum of the Chartreuse of San Martino. This nativity scene is located in the large room next to that of Charles Dutter's gondola. The tavern keeper's cottage is a wonderful reproduction of Neapolitan customs. Copper utensils, bundles of herbs, farm animals, complete furniture, flower vases are all depicted. Farther along on the laundry terrace, the washing hung on lines, and drying in the sun, the little cage at the window, all in perfect order. To the right stands the tavern-keeper's cottage, above, that of the laundress, to the left, a small bridge over a torrent between the enormous trunks of old oaks toppled at the centre, the broken columns of a ruined temple. Far away, very far away, to the limit of sight, the country, small green hills fade into mist, and above, a blue sky gives this profane and sacred scene an aspect of the most majestic. What animation, what life in this landscape, in that foaming torrent amid enormous blocks and ancient trees, in this smiling, idyllic nature among thick roses and flowering meadows! What wealth in the procession of the three kings! Over in the plain, horses gallop wildly, barely held back by their grooms. Farther away, rich peasant women dance the town to the sound of guitars. What expressions on those clay heads! What fineness in all these clothes and adornments! What sparkle in those precious pearls! They advance with turbans on their heads, and cloaked in rich gold garments, studded with jewels. Many slaves lead camels laden with coffers, filled with gold and precious stones. Above all rises the pure note of faith, the Virgin and Saint Joseph, the little child Jesus lying on straw, the ox and the ass. Around the small columns that surround the Nativity, ivy and moss climb, and swarms of angels swing in the air glorifying God. The Nativity of Dom Mitchell, with its 80 figurines, represents a value of 250,000 francs. A resident of the town of Caserta had in his home a nativity scene of truly royal wealth. It will not be surprising to learn that armed soldiers guarded this Principio day and night. On Christmas Eve, at midnight, the entire family kneels before the nativity scene. The Magickings, in dazzling costumes, brought real coffers of gold and jewels, pearls, rubies, emeralds, topazes shone from all directions. A woman had on her forehead a diamond so large, and of such beautiful water that a princess would have willingly put it in her diadem. The youngest child takes a wax bambino and places it between the Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph in a small cradle of moss. The Zampagnari begin their most beautiful symphony, to which canticles are sung, everyone prays, making it one of the most poignant scenes. 60. Note 6 from Die Lorsi Res, Panorama des Effi tis Cry Tinas. All night on Christmas Eve fireworks known as Tricky, Trachy take place. The streets and alleys become brighter than midday. Bengal lights spark at every floor and window, with flecks of fire falling like rain on the heads of passers-by. The actors first played with great seriousness and dignity. The dead are few, there are indeed some wounded. But it's Christmas, and next year we will start all over again. 20 years ago, in Naples, in a second-rate theatre, they performed The Birth of the Incarnate Word, a long and tedious 5-act play in verse with a prologue. Similarly, in public squares, on sidewalks and balconies, suns, girandoles, and all sorts of fireworks explode. In every street, in every neighbourhood, it's a heavy shootout. It seems that in this city of 500,000 souls a terrifying struggle is taking place. Next to a cave stands a prison, then a palace, a Capuchin convent, and a church. The action is most grotesque. But at the end of each act, the Gilari, the buffoons, clowns would appear on stage, engage in conversation with the Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph, then soon after become the sole masters of the stage, telling the news from the port, in a devilishly lively manner. There is a rather peculiar custom in the small town of Catanzaro, south of Naples, in later Calabria. It's a kind of living nativity scene, a speaking creech. It is not in the church. It appears to be filled with characters who move, gesture, speak, just like puppets. For example, Herod has just learned of the birth of a king more powerful than him. Immediately he falls into extreme fury and orders all children under 2 years old to be killed by the sword. We then witness the murder of the innocents. We hear plaintive cries. She wears a white muslin apron that she holds up with both hands as if to form a cradle. On Christmas Day, a baby Jesus is laid in the Virgin's apron. The religious figures emerge from the convent and try to defend these poor victims, but they too are beaten until others arrive, singing psalms for the dead. Note 6 Lumini, Italian sacred representations, p. 306. On the island of Ischia, in both churches, one can see a decorated throne on which a statue of the Virgin is placed. She is dressed in rich brocade, has natural, tightly curled hair and earrings. In Capri 62, at the beginning of midnight Mass, the tabernacle appears open and empty, symbolizing that Christ has not yet been born. Only after communion does the priest place a consecrated host inside and close the door. Throughout the night and all day on December 25th, bombs and gunshots continuously echo from the mountains. Note 62. The view from the tip of the Capo in Capri is magnificent, with only a few comparables in the world, such as the Bay of Rio de Janeiro and the surroundings of Constantinople. In the Church of Massa, Lubrance, near Sorrento 63, there is a nativity scene that is an entire world. There are perhaps 200 figurines. It is, so to speak, a reproduction of the nativity scene at Chartreuse Monastery in Naples. Note 63. Near Sorrento is the picturesque Deserto convent. It consists of rugged rocks filled with miniature figures, shepherds, religious persons, in a ravine, the three wise men advancing with their entire entourage, then villages, houses with curious people on balconies, workers at their workshops, people chatting in the public square, and angels suspended in mid-air. From the terrace, one enjoys a charming view of both the Gulf of Naples and Salerno, as well as the island of Capri. Throughout the region, passers-by greet strangers with Buon Natal, Merry Christmas, which is the wish for the New Year 64. The same is true in Rome. People still say Buon Festa, Happy Holidays. This ringing, agreed upon as Squilla die Natal Christmas shrill, lasts for an hour without interruption. Meanwhile, shops and cafes close, all residents return to their homes, and continuous volleys of musketry and other firearms echo from everywhere. At 7 in the evening, everyone is at home, the bell stops ringing, and all the bells of the many churches in the city of Lanciano chime in turn. At this moment, everyone falls to their knees and recites litanies and other prayers. This is the hour when, according to popular belief, the Virgin arrived in Bethlehem. When the prayer is finished, children kiss the hands of their parents, grandparents, uncles, and aunts, and exchange good wishes for the holidays. Note 64. These interesting details about Ischia, Capri, and the surrounding areas near Sorrento were provided by 2 members of our family who attended midnight Mass in Capri's church on Christmas Eve 1904. In the Illustration popular illustration from Rome, under the title La Squilla di Lanciano, nella notte di Natal Lanciano's shrill sound during Christmas night, the following description is given. On the evening of December 23rd, at 6 o'clock, a small bell from the Metropolitan Cathedral of Santa Maria del Ponte starts ringing. A moment later, children who live far from their paternal home also arrive. They come to express their filial love and share in the joys of the reunited family. To make this trip, he took an hour, and during that time a bell rang. After Monsignor Tasso's death, his successors abandoned the procession, but the custom of ringing the bell continued. Ninna nanna di Manzoni. Dormi, fanciul, non pianger dormi, fanciul celeste. Sovra il tu capo strider non usen la tempest. Sleep, do not weep. Sleep, heavenly child, let storms rage above your head. Nascent not the storms. First stanza. Sicily, Sicily, aptly called the Pearl of the Islands, due to the beauty of its landscapes and the gentleness of its climate, offers an infinite number of charming customs at Christmas time. Note 65. Lanciano in southern Abruzzo has 18,000 inhabitants, an archbishopric, a beautiful cathedral, the Bridge of Diocletian. Here is the translation of the text from Auto to English. This is the origin, this custom, Monsignor Paul Tasso, a Neapolitan by birth, a prelate of great charity, and who was Archbishop of Lanciano from 1588 to 1607, had the habit of going every year, on the evening of December 25th, in a procession, barefoot, followed by the clergy and the people, in memory of Mary's journey from Nazareth to Bethlehem. The boat coming from Naples usually arrives in Palermo before sunrise. The morning scenery is truly delightful. The great and very interesting Palermo newspaper, Aura, the hour of December 25 and 94, which we have been kindly sent by a distinguished professor from this city, provides valuable documents that we will translate and summarize while preserving as much as possible their local color. To the left, above the rocky promontory of Zafferano, fly light grey clouds adorned with pink by the first dawn fires. The sky is clear of that pale blue which characterizes the end of a storm, and which all those who have sailed the Mediterranean well know its delicate shade. Soon appears Palermo, La Felice the happy one, bathed in light, surrounded by its golden shell, a fertile plain framed by a semicircle of grandiose mountains. The smiles and sarcasms of strong-minded and half scholars have not managed to diminish the fresh poetry of Christmas celebrations. Everywhere one hears the sad voices of the people's bards, mixed with the monotone noise of cymbals, the plaintive wails of violins, and in the distance, the rural sounds of bagpipes and zampan. Without doubt, says the Aura, there is certainly in our dear island, as everywhere else, for 2 or 3 days, family and friend gatherings where chosen dishes and succulent delicacies are served, followed by desserts of fine cakes and fresh candies. But Christmas retains its traditional religious festival atmosphere in our bustling cities, streets, and even in the humblest villages. It is the blind poets 6/6 who sing the painful journey of the Holy Virgin and Saint Joseph, or the Ninareda lullaby, a kind of novena preparatory to Christmas. Every house that accepts them and agrees to pay them is marked with a broad black line drawn in charcoal. It is also the shepherds who have come down from the mountains. They come to repeat their melancholy canticle, steeped in sighs and tears. Note 66. In Palermo, the blind poets form some sort of corporation. They travel through the countryside, attend all festivals, modify and renew the songs of their predecessors. The prayers, the orazioni, that are recited before the nativity scene in some villages in the countryside of Sicily are much less known. These are very short songs, invocations to the child Jesus, the Virgin, and Saint Joseph the Patriarch. These prayers are written in the graceful Sicilian dialect that the poet Melli immortalized in his verses. One can judge by the beginning of the first sonnet of his bucolics: mountains cut with valleys, rocks clad in ivy and moss, falls of pure, silvery water, whispering streams and silent lakes. They cover all generous memories of the Crusades, legends of St. Lucy and St. Rosalie, the 2 saints so popular throughout Sicily, an earthquake, a shipwreck, etc. They employ as much imagination to express these various themes through poetry and music as the painters do to reproduce them on the carts of Sicilian peasants. The pious hymns of the Ninevite of Christmas, the canzoni, are very well known. They are almost the same throughout southern Italy and Sicily: steep peaks and dark ravines, barren reeds and flowering junipers, ancient trees bending with age, and caves where water droplets petrify before they fall. Welcome, in your silent sanctuaries, the friend of peace and rest. Milli Bucolica, Sonette. The first of these prayers, published by Valplatani, has all the grace of a small Flemish painting, a tutta la grazia done quadrato fiamingo. In a cave was born the little child, in Bethlehem, at the return of the cold season, lying down on straw like a poor child. But as the cock crows, light shines from the cave like a paradise. Note 67, crew, we are indebted for this translation to the great kindness of our scholarly friend, Abby M., the curate of Corsia, whose continuous collaboration has been invaluable since the beginning of our research on popular Christmas customs. Not even a cave was born of the bambino. In Bethlehem, in time of warmth, he lay down in straw like a tiny child. The great mother placed him there, and nearby a donkey stood, placed at the manger's side. On the other side, a cow with a gentle face, and in turn all the livestock gathered. Jesus, beautiful and little, lay down in the straw to endure the cold. His gracious mother placed him there, next to a donkey on one side of the manger, and a tender cow on the other. All around, the crowd of shepherds. Dear Jesus, gentle, beautiful, tiny, died of cold on the straw. But as soon as his graceful lips smiled, the cave shone like a paradise. Sicily also has its Christmases. One must not look for refined images, historical continuity, or artfully rhymed verses. They are simple stanzas that follow in the whimsical manner of a group of children playing in a flowery meadow. It was like a garden, all filled with aromas. Here is born the little Jesus, with drums and tambourines, and the wine over the altar. However rustic graces in these pious little songs, and what inimitable ingenuity of style and images. In that of Noto, Jesus is born in a garden sprinkled with aromatic plants, a drum, and the tinkling of children playing announce his birth. Everyone has to sing, they sing with beautiful voices. The child is welcomed, welcomed, come, come. A bit further down there is a garden entirely covered in trees that spread perfumes. Here Jesus the child was born, with trumpets and drums. They place him on the altar. All the angels start to sing, singing with their beautiful voices the Welcome Bambino. Well, come, come, come. We sing hymns, hymns and hymns. We sing the litany, the Pelamo litany. They seem to me even more childlike, these two other little songs of Valplatani. The first appears to be a Nina Nana lullaby. On the night of Christmas, the baby is born in a manger. At his feeding time his mother smiled at us. Roses and lilies she plucked for us. If one believes this other song from Valplatani, when our Saviour was born in the grotto of Bethlehem, there were not only angels, but also a certain character who played the bagpipes. The first seems an unrepeatable painting in its graceful naivety under a chestnut tree. To Jesus, come closer, come 3 steps closer, with your little hand. At the sound of the rustic instrument, a sheep with curls of frizzy wool danced. On Christmas night there was a servant and a companion who played the bagpipe. A sheep with curls of frizzy wool danced a ravishing beauty. Especially during Christmas celebrations, children from Valplatani recite, in a monotonous rhythm, stanzas of 4 or at most 6 lines. They are imbued with an innocent purity. You are beautiful and so tiny. In cherry season, come to my home. Come now so I can be helped. For Christmas, children play at setting up creraches, in front of which they light small oil lamps before midnight. All the fervour of a fervent invocation vibrates in this other stanza, Baminidudila Chiuvidu, beautiful and small. When the cherry blossoms appear, joyfully come to my house. You have not yet come to my house. Come now to help me, little child that I see from here. The mountain is inhabited by a dozen or so chalk figures that our children call shepherds. However, some do not resemble the pastoral attire at all. The Kryachi is a sugar mountain with valleys, cliffs, and caves that must represent, in miniature, the mountain of Bethlehem. There must necessarily be a stream made of glass or silver paper, or even water flowing in a white iron bed among sugar rocks, as a result of ingenious combinations. Among the true shepherds, one of them, upon seeing the great, strange light that spread across the mountain of Bethlehem at the birth of Jesus, looks in terror. Thus he is known as the frightened one of the manger, lo spaventato del principe. One sees a muleteer pulling reluctant beast with reins, a laundry woman returning from the stream with a heavy load on her head, a fisherman casting his line into the waters of a river, a hunter shooting a bird perched on a tree, and children know them one by one as if they were alive. One sees a shepherd carrying a bundle of wood, another stirring milk in a boiling cauldron. He has removed, or is about to remove, a thorn that swells his foot. He throws a stone at a cow that wanders astray. This one blows into the bagpipe or zampogna and swells his cheeks. That one hits a ring. With their knowing eyes that give life and animation to everything, they follow them as they make their way to the cave where the infant Jesus smiles at them, arms open wide, surrounded by 2 animals warming him with their breath. But let's return to family joys. Let us revisit the most bustling streets of our Palermo. We are on the night before Christmas. Here are the shops of the most renowned fruit merchants. Facades, architraves, columns, capitals of a very strange architecture present themselves to our gaze. The material from which these kinds of houses are made, and which would be the delight of an army of rats, is entirely dried figs. But who could render with a pen the vivid gradations of colour that our fruit merchants combine in such a scholarly manner? How to describe this pyramid of honey that stands out right next to a pile of winter pears that seem made of old gold? The custom of good Norwegians to offer oats and bread to birds on Christmas Day is also found in several countries of Sicily. Straw and vine shoots are gathered and a massive log is placed on top, often donated by a religiously observant landowner. A delightful custom, well worthy of Christmas, the festival par excellence of peace and joy. In some villages in Sicily, the tradition of lighting the Christmas log il seppo di Natale is still practiced. In Sicily, for example, women are in the habit of throwing pieces of bread and grains of wheat onto roofs, balconies, and window sills, so that on the day Jesus was born. The gracious air inhabitants do not lack food, and can brighten up this day with their most joyful songs. As soon as the sun sets behind the mountains, and the bell rings Ave Maria the Angelus, the designated person sets fire to the log, ensuring it stays lit all night. Some see this as symbolizing the fire that the shepherds of Bethlehem would have kindled in their humble homes on the night the angel announced the birth of Jesus. Others owe this attribute as custom to the need to warm the poor people who watch under the open sky during the cold Christmas night. Nothing is more cheerful than the sight of this log on fire, surrounded by artisans and the poor. Some stand, others sit on stones, some smoke their pipes philosophically, while others nibble on roasted chestnuts under the ember of the log. Children crack nuts. Old people stretch their hands towards the fire to unfreeze them. Around the traditional Christmas log, like at an immense hearth, everyone gathers, one feels, so good in this warm atmosphere, and has such a good time. In front of this large piece of wood burning merrily, sending clouds of smoke into the air and sparking, the crowd first remains motionless, and the flame projects brilliant reflections on all faces. But soon the most joyful laughter erupts, friends exchange the most innocent jests, and all voices sing Christmas carols. From time to time the fire is fanned, new logs are added to the first, and the sweetest gaiety reigns in all conversations, until the last embers of the Christmas log die out with the first light of dawn. Spain among the peoples of the north, the idea of Christmas is associated with cold, snow, and a freezing gale. Children picture Santa Claus, with his long white beard and clothes covered in clear, crunchy frost. There, in mid-Spain, on Andalusian soil, the sun shines brightly, the azure sky gleams without a stain, and on December 25th, the thermometer usually reads 12 degrees in the shade and 25 in the sun. So, on the day of Natividad or Navidad, the joy of all becomes loud and boisterous. During the Christmas night, La Nochebuena, the good night, as the Spanish call it, the streets resound with cheers and the most deafening concerts. The Christmas season in Spain begins with Advent. This bull, first granted by Julius I and renewed in 1849 by Pius VI, grants all Spaniards the same privileges as those of the old Crusades, bulls of Urban I and Innocent I. In Madrid, on the eve of the first Sunday of Advent, a clerk from the church court Rota Sixni, accompanied by bell-ringers and royal stables trumpets, constables, and a numerous cortege, all dressed in costumes from the 17th and 18th centuries, rides through Madrid's main streets on horseback and reads the decree regarding the proclamation of the Bulla de la Santa Cruzada, bull of the Holy Crusade. Note 69. This court is modelled after that of Rome, which also bears the same name. They call it rota, which means wheel, because the room where this court meets is circular, so the judges sit in a circle. We were told in Miranda de Ebro that during the time of the Moorish invasion, Spanish peasants, at great risk to their lives, brought supplies to Catholic troops, who sometimes had to take refuge in inaccessible mountains. This allows Spaniards to feast every Friday of the year with a small donation. Permitted were the valiant defenders of the faith and their intrepid suppliers to feast on Fridays to replenish their exhausted strength from constant fatigue. The privilege became a custom consecrated by the bulletin of a holy crusade. However, foreigners can legitimately enjoy the privileges of the bull if they visit Spanish lands, even for a very short time and regardless of the reason. Now it is enough to buy the bull for a small donation, inscribe one's name on it, and keep it at home. Formerly, to enjoy the benefits of the bull, one had to go in person, serve in the Spanish army against the infidels, or equip at their own expense a soldier of that army, or make a donation. Note 70. The Bulletin of the Holy Crusade is generally defined as a papal document containing numerous privileges, inducements, and graces granted to the King of Spain to aid him in war against the infidels. To obtain this bull, one must reside in the kingdoms, provinces, and territories subject to the King of Spain. We are written from the Argentine Republic, where Spanish language and customs have taken root, and it is customary to exchange visits and wish each other Felices Pascuas, de Navidad, Happy Christmas, Easter 71. These songs are usually accompanied by castanets and zambambas. This musical instrument, not having an equivalent in French, we feel compelled to describe it. Among other privileges, the bull grants the right to eat eggs and dairy products every day of Lent, as well as meat on all days of fasting and abstinence throughout the year. Christmas is mainly the great feast of the Basque countries in Guipuzcoa. They say Las Pascuas de la Natividad, the Easter of the Nativity. Note 71. In Spain, they say Pascuas de la Natividad, Easter of the Nativity, and Pascuas de la Resurrección, Easter of the Resurrection. During the Christmas holidays, it is customary throughout Spain, both cities and rural areas, to sing pastoral songs called Villancicos Christmas chants, in a 68-time signature, which symbolize the songs of shepherds celebrating the birth of the child Jesus. The zambamba, so called perhaps by imitative harmony, is a kind of rural tambourine that seems to have come from the Morse. It can still be found in Africa. It is a clay vase with more or less the shape of an hourglass. One of its ends is covered with a thick, dried, and carefully stretched skin that has an opening in the center. Through this opening passes a stick about 50 centimeters long, planted perpendicularly and tied to the skin. To make the instrument mug, presumably referring to producing sound, it is enough to give the stick energetic up and down movements. In the suburbs, everyone has their zambaba, children, parents, old people. At every corner, merchants sell them. There are all kinds, and some are even truly luxurious. The sound box is decorated with paintings, and the stick is made of rare and precious wood. Fortunately, the use of the zambamba is limited to Christmas celebrations. That's enough. In Valladolid and Salamanca, young girls dance around statues of the Madonna, singing villancicos that often contain only unfinished thoughts, as is common in many folk melodies. The cooks beat, with all their might, on their loudest pot, while on the street, children armed with hammers pound on house doors as if they wanted to break them down. Such a cacophony, should it last, would eventually drive one mad. No matter how noisy Christmas parties can be in Spain, they are even less so on Holy Saturday. On that day, around 11 in the morning, when the bells, having returned from Rome, begin to ring the Gloria in Excelsis, for half an hour there is a most strange noise. We will quote just these two stanzas: Adia la raza, why la raza adia, why no si quemaba, la Virgin Maria. The bush was burning, and the bush was burning, and it did not burn Virgin Mary. Perhaps that's why this well-known proverb is so prevalent throughout Spain. Who has not seen Seville has not seen a wonder. San Jose was a carpenter, and the Virgin a seamstress. The child carves the cross, because he must die on it. The most interesting city from a religious and popular festival perspective is undoubtedly Seville. Imagine a green and fresh campaign, then around it a frame of rolling hills dripping with lively waters, exuberant in vegetation, higher up an amphitheatre of mountains, bathed in a soft, blue light, finally, above all, the eternal snows of Sierra Nevada rising to 500 meters in the dark azure of the sky. Its grand Holy Week processions, passos, are famous around the world. The Christmas party La Natividad is particularly popular. It takes place, for the most part, outdoors. The market is more lively than ever between the Tiana Bridge and the Plaza de Toros. They waddle along, ruffling their glossy feathers, shaking their bloody red beaks, and attracting housewives with their gobbling sounds. The pavero shouts out his merchandise and sells it with all the pride of his race. 73. This is the smiling and grand panorama of the wonderful city of Alhambra. It's not the Giralda Tower that stands out with its harmonious proportioned lines. It's not its other monuments, nor its art treasures, nor the beautiful paintings by Murillo that earned Seville its nickname, the Enchanting One. La Encantadora, it's the delights of life, the festivals, and the perpetual movement of joy that animates its population. First comes the pavero, turkey seller, jing in Spanish. It is an industry that is only practiced around Christmas time. A few days before the holiday, he appears in the streets, pushing his flock of birds. Note 740. The term rambler, derived from Arabic, refers across Spain to the dried bed of a river. Often, as in Barcelona, it is replaced by magnificent boulevards. Note 733, Louis de Harcourt, illustration 1890. In Barcelona, the city of wide and bustling avenues, on December 21st, St. Thomas's Day, there is a great influx of peasants who come to exhibit and sell turkeys on La Rambla de Catalunya for Christmas festivities. The price of each ticket is 500 francs, but it can be divided into coupons and fractions down to the smallest amounts. After the drawing, the winnings are distributed proportionally to the value of the tickets, including cuts and fractions. This is why Cervantes' description still applies to the great city he calls unique in its site and beauty. Insitiawai in Belleza Unica. The Christmas lottery in Seville also adds extraordinary allure and animation to this festival. One can gauge its significance from the value of the grand prize, which typically exceeds 2 million francs. The Spanish people are all interested in this great quasi-national work, and even those living abroad do not fail to write to Seville to obtain tickets. A few days before Christmas, it is customary in many families with children to set up representations of the adoration of the child Jesus by the shepherds and the three kings. Miniature landscapes are populated with characters and animals without much concern for local colour or verisimilitude. In the southern provinces, after devotedly admiring the divine child, the Virgin Mary, Saint Joseph the shepherds, the Magi kings, the traditional donkey and ox, one spends part of the night enjoying oneself, especially dancing the fandango. These types of criaches are called nacimientos, births. In some families, people diligently prepare in advance to create pictures Griffet's friends will come to admire until the kings, as these ephemeral constructions never exceed. This custom exists more or less throughout Spain. This favourite dance of the Spaniards is in a lively 3-beat rhythm with guitar and castanets accompaniment. Its rapid movement, the flailing of arms, the dancer's trances, give it an animated character full of originality. Between dances, one drinks aguardiente brandy and manzanilla dry white wine. This intimate gathering of family and friends ends with a special dance to which everyone participates. All the attendees sit in a circle. This person then stops in front of a woman, young or old, who takes over her choreographic exercises, and so on until all dancers are exhausted. Note 75 free Louis de Harcourt, Lock. A lively young girl jumps up and quickly runs around the circle, always dancing. Then she stops in front of one of the spectators, who is expected to replace her and perform a brilliant step, regardless of their age, situation, or gravity. Sit. In the northern provinces, such as the Basque country, there are much less of these noisy displays. A measured slowness and a grave tone prevail in actions and speeches. After midnight mass comes the wake, which consists of bezugo, a common fish in the area, fat goose, and a dessert made up of nuggets, Alicante candies, and gidgeon. In the south, Christmas pie 76, fried cod, chestnuts, and truffle-stuffed turkey are featured in the meal, washed down with full glasses of Valdepi, as in manzanilla. Sometimes the guitar and the zambomba accompany the tango, bolero, and Sevillana Spanish dances. Note 76 tree. In the Argentine Republic, the Christmas treat is pan dulce sweetbread, a type of cake made with dried raisins that bakers prepare in large quantities for this holiday. The favorite Christmas cakes preferred by the Spanish are called turrons. They generally have the shape of coiled snakes and are covered with colorful sugar arabesques, fondants, and candied fruits and glazes. They are wonderful to look at and delicious to eat. There is a variety in size, from small snakes to the largest bows. Every year, considerable amounts are sold in Barcelona on the Paseo de la Industry Promenade. The turrons, or marzipan cakes, are huge honey cakes with ground almonds, sweet potatoes, where Spanish imagination and grace take free rein for decorations. The entire Spanish family has its turron for Christmas, and the rich families offer them at considerable prices. 77. Note 77, Cree. In Spain, as in Italy, Christmas replaces New Year's Day. On Christmas morning for the Mass, before the Basque villagers also dance the fandango to the sound of guitars and castanets, but with a very different rhythm from the people of the south. The dancers curve their arms like mill wings, face each other in affectionate gestures, without ever coming close to one another. They remain silent and composed. Filled with the dignity of their roles, they seem to be performing some sort of priesthood. On an overturned platform, a mischievous noble, who has come from nowhere, sings the sad malagia, a mournful melody that dates back to the Moorish times, while a ray of sunlight illuminates his poor, wretched face. 78. Note 78 tree, according to the Quinzane, December 6, 1904. Christmas is above all a religious feast among the Spanish people, faithful guardians of the nave and touching traditions of their fathers. There are certainly some noisy manifestations in churches from time to time, especially in poor and working-class neighborhoods. Castanet shakers, Basque drums, and zambombas accompany villancicos, Christmas carols, with a somewhat too lively rhythm. Some instruments, quite singular, imitate the song of birds, especially the loud cry of a rooster. During the offering, and as people leave, the organ itself, forgetful of its usual gravity, plays variations on themes borrowed from the most popular airs. Amidst such concerts, the Choa children jump around a bit. The crowd is agitated by a swaying that marks the rhythm a little too clearly, but overall it remains serious and worthy of the sacred place. In Seville, on Christmas Day, they still dance in the churches, but everything is planned and arranged in advance, and the audience witness to these exercises that are an integral part of the holiday ceremony, enjoys the joy without losing their calm and collected attitude. Until the end of the 18th century in Valladolid, the mysteries of the Nativity were represented in the middle of the churches. The characters on stage wore grotesque masks and dubious costumes. They were accompanied by all popular instruments, castanets, Basque drums, guitars, violins. He who sang best was hailed by the faithful with the beautiful name of Victor. If we enter, on Christmas Day, one of the churches in southern Spain, we will find a crowd pressing inside to sanctify this solemnity. During intermissions, the organist played alone. He chose from his repertoire the most upbeat pieces. Suddenly, women and young girls entered the dance, holding lit candles in their hands. All this festivity was intertwined with villanelles or rustic songs. The young Andalusian woman, dressed in black silk with a mantilla, kneels on the bare stone 79, gazing at the Madonna adorned in her most beautiful damask and lace garments, crowned with a rich diadem of sparkling pearls. She stands straight and immobile, as if frozen in place, offering a fervently prayer to the Virgin, who cannot fail to answer it, on this day marking the anniversary of the birth of her son. Such worshippers, carved from marble or stone, that one admires in the catacombs of Rome, or by the tombs of the Campo Santo in Genoa, and other cities of Italy. Note 79 Spanish churches usually do not have chairs. In the north, the young Basque woman will also prostrate herself, on Christmas Day, in the church of Lezo, near Saint Say, Bastineti. It is no longer the Virgin Mary she begs, but before the revered image of Christ that she spends hours immersed in a kind of ecstasy, as she contemplates, with emotion and tears, her god with a striking appearance, limp limbs, ebony hair, and a tender, compassionate gaze that seems to fix and understand her. She confides all the secrets of a fiery soul, her sorrows, her illusions, her hopes. Note Etiru, in the Basque country, it is customary on Christmas Day to make 3 local pilgrimages particularly famous, those to Lezo, Aizia, and Aranzazu. To him she comes to ask what the old lament sings, Holy Christ of Lezo, I ask you 3 things, health, money, and a good husband. Saint Christ of Lezo, I ask you 3 things, salvation, fortune, and a good husband. In wandering the silent countryside of the province of Gipuzkoa, it often returned to our minds a beautiful page by Pierre Loti on the Mass in Basque country, and especially these final lines: to do the same things that countless ancestors have done, and to blindly repeat the same words of faith, is supreme wisdom, supreme strength. For all these believers who were singing there, a kind of peace emerged from this immutable ceremony of the Mass, a vague but gentle resignation to the upcoming annihilations. Nothing in our travel memories has given us a higher idea of faith that works wonders, and of the ardent charity of a people with a brave heart and deep and true religion. We remain to speak of Christmas Mass in Spain, midnight Mass and Mass of the Day. The midnight Mass is called Missa del Gallo, Mass of the Rooster, or the Song of the Rooster. It offers nothing particularly special. It is celebrated in most churches in Madrid. Living in the present moment, they lost a little of their fleeting personality to attach themselves better to the dead lying beneath the slabs, and to continue more exactly, to form with them and their future descendants one of these resilient and almost indefinite durations ensembles that we call a race. It has been given to us to see entire families kneeling before the miraculous Christ of the beautiful Burgos Cathedral, or before the Virgin del Pilar Virgin of the immense Basilica of Zaragoza. At the end, the faithful sing villancicos, accompanied by all sorts of instruments, creating a racket that surprises and astounds foreigners. Noisy bands of commoners walk through the most frequented streets singing. Since midnight, Cafe, especially those in La Porta del Sol 81, have been filled with a lively crowd. Visiting the fruit market in Plaza Maya is interesting, especially on Christmas Eve. There are numerous brightly lit shops. Note Atrifon, La Porta del Sol Sun Gate, Madrid's largest and most vibrant square. It gets its name from the old gate demolished in 1570, from which one could see the sunrise. On Christmas Day, monasteries open the normally closed to the public chapels, and midnight Mass is celebrated with great solemnity. It is a sequence of feverish signs of kneeling, kissing the floor, blows struck on the chest, flaming and imploring looks from the altar of the Madonna, and back again. Every faithful person brings, carefully wrapped in their coat, their candle awkwardly twisted into the shape of a serpent. In the glow of lights, a crowd gathers in the main nave, and even reaches the sanctuary, united by a fervent faith and expansive piety. In the church under its lofty dome, in the famous Loyola convent, built on the site of the house where St. Ignatius, founder of the Jesuit order, was born at midnight Mass the organ plays. After the consecration, the royal march with accompaniment of Basque drums and castanets. The religious, in keeping with the centuries' old custom, celebrate at once the glory of the Most High and that of their sovereign 82. Note 82 Quinzainloch. Mesit. Around the harmonium nuns were grouped. I have never heard a mass sung at such a gay pace. The celebrant, all aglow, began the Kyrie with some bright, sharp notes, and the choir responded flawlessly. Etienne Rose describes, in a style full of charm and humour, a Christmas Mass in Madrid. On Christmas Day, desiring to attend a picturesque service, I went to the Grand Mass at the General Hospital. It was there, they had told me, that old traditions found refuge. An old nun wrinkled under her white cornet, beat time resolutely. She was an excellent conductor. The voices were pure and fresh, and the instruments perfectly in tune. There were 2 zambombas, 2 Basque drums, castanets, 2 trumpets, 2 whistles of different tones, a cuckoo, a rooster, a nightingale, and 2 of those small clay pots that are filled halfway and from which one blows to imitate bird chirping. It all moved forward, stopped, started again in excellent time. Only occasionally were the chirps late, chirping here and there, amidst silence, or when it wasn't their turn. But they chirped so merrily, with such kindness, that it was impossible to be angry with them. Moreover, the conductor squinted and everything fell into place. It sounded like a sung mass in a cage. The rooster, the nightingale, and the cuckoo were especially wonderful. They called out to each other and responded with impeccable measure. The drums and castanets formed the bass and never rested. The entire service was celebrated thus, and in such a nave, simple, touching way, with such lively and sincere faith, that the smile which had come to my lips at the beginning disappeared very quickly, to be replaced by a genuine emotion. 83. Note 833, Mon Review. On King's Day at Rise in Madrid, a lively crowd fills the streets and shops. Christmas 1902. After midnight mass, it is customary in Spain to greet each other with these words, Nacido el Niño. The child is born. Note 8040. The law of least effort causes the D to disappear in pronunciation, and usually one says, Nació el Niño. In the evening, children carry torches, ladders, bells, and drums, parading through the most remote streets and squares where they stop to watch for the arrival of the kings. But sooner, messenger comes to announce that the kings have taken another route, and are entering the city from the other end. Upon this, the whole group heads to the indicated location, where the same scene repeats itself. On Epiphany Day in Madrid, at the Royal Chapel, a solemn mass is celebrated by the Cardinal Omnia, the King-Queen, and all the royal family, along with the court in full gala attire, attend. After the mass, the king has 3 beautiful chalices carried onto the altar. The cardinal consecrates them, and the king sends them to 3 poor churches as a memento of the 3 wise men. Note 85-3. This edifying trait, and several others, were told us by a churchman who spent 2 years in Madrid and had frequent interactions with the Spanish royal family. End. Table preface. Christmas in Sweden and Norway, the mysterious gift. The national meal. Midnight mass in the village. The New Year's Eve party for small birds. Christmas in England masquerades. Massive preparations. London in a buzz. The Baron of Beef. Decorating the home. The traditional log singers. The family meal. The swan on the king's table. Relief for the poor. Games. Evening gathering. Christmas cards. Boxing Day. Christmas in Crimea. Christmas in the Transvaal. A midnight mass in exile. The royal offering on 3 Kings' Day. Christmas in Germany announcement of the celebration. Origin of German traditions. New Year's Eve. Christmas cake at the Berlin court. Children's Christmas. The Christmas tree. The Christmas carol. The family meeting. Valet Rupert. The visit of the child Jesus. Nicholas the Hairy. The Christmas tree in 1870. The Christmas tree at the barracks. Patriotic treat. Christmas in Italy, Rome. The Pifferari. The cantata to the Virgin. Shops on Piazza Navone. Nativity scenes, San Bambino. La Befana. Befana's rounds. Christmas in Valladolid. Christmas mysteries in Lica. The Ave Maria of the Log. Christmas in Naples, the week of Bancarel. Fish market. Naples, Port Zampagnare. Neapolitan nativity scenes. The Creaci at the Chartreuse Museum. The Creaci at Caserta. Fireworks. The drama of the birth of the incarnate word. The talking Creaci in Catanzaro. The bells of Lanciano. Christmas in Sicily, Christmas musicians. Graceful Sicilian dialect, Christmas prayers. Holy little songs, Childish Creaces. Shops in Palermo. Bird's meal. Christmas log. Christmas in Spain, nosy celebration. The bubble of the Holy Crusade. Easter of the Nativity. The Silancicos. The Zambamba. Holy Saturday. Christmas in Seville. The Turkey Merchant. The Lottery of Seville. The Nativity scenes. The Fandango. The Taurons. The mystery plays of Christmas in Valladolid. The Christmas prayer in Seville. The Christmas prayer in Lezo. Midnight Mass. Mass of the Day at the General Hospital. 3 Kings' Day in Madrid. Oral. A deck. 3rd, 1905. Bront Vic, Gen. We published in 1903 on popular Christmas joys in our old provinces, and in 1904 on Christmas in the northern countries, 2 brochures from which a large number of newspapers, magazines, and religious weeklies have taken extracts. The Offering of the King of Spain. End-of-table transcribers noted follows irrelevant material that is found in the early pages of the book, which served to produce this document. Price including postage, 1 franc available from the author Pithiviers Modern Printing House, 1 impasse Dilog-Gleis 1906 imprimatur. In 1904, the great Paris newspaper Les Gaulois honoured us with its interesting illustrated Christmas issue. We hope that our Christmas in foreign lands will receive the same favour this year, since our journey to the Holy Land in 1893, presided over by His Eminence Cardinal Langenieux, of pious, illustrious, and revered memory, we have gathered numerous note-stumps on the customs observed during Christmas and Epiphany. We propose to publish shortly the Christmas folk lore, or an essay on popular Christmas customs in all countries. Our work will be divided as follows. Preface. Origin and purpose of this book. Introduction. Summary of the historical events that took place on Christmas Day. Christmas ephemeris. Chapters I. Our friends from the Asian Society, scattered throughout the world, wrote us letters brimming with interest and erudition. Our fellow countrymen in France and abroad, whose science and amiable charity we have had the pleasure of appreciating, have also extended their most benevolent and useful assistance. The solemnity and popularity of Christmas, aye, Christmas Eve and the legends told on that night, aye, the Christmas log, the Christmas procession, secular and religious, v. especial features of midnight mass, vi. Christmas gifts, the Christmas tree and the Christmas stocking, vi. New Year's Eve and Christmas cakes, v. The origin, naivety, and universality of Christmas, x. Nativity scenes, x. Pastorals and mystery plays at Christmas, Christmas in the northern countries, c. Christmas in the southern countries, c. Christmas in mission lands, civ. Epiphany celebration, conclusion. These Christmas customs, so universal and popular, prove the divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. We would be very grateful to our readers for providing us with new documents from their readings, travels, or friends. These documents are mainly found in newspapers, magazines, and religious periodicals that appear between December 15th and 30th each year. Those who possess collections of these various publications can consult previous year's issues. In every country, the local press contains very interesting articles on the customs specific to each region. As information, these articles hold great value for us. The most renowned writers, prosaic and poetic, from all countries have spoken with admiration of our Christmas traditions. Freddie Rickmistral sang the Christmas log in that beautiful and harmonious Provençal language which he speaks so well. Who does not know the Last Log by Theodore Botrel, with its distinctly Gallic rhythm and Breton flavour? Madame de Savigny recounts, with finesse and joy, how the Revel was celebrated at her wonderful carnivalet residence. We find in Schmid's graceful Weihnachtsobend Christmas Eve a charming description of the manger, scene, and Shakespeare himself, in Hamlet, makes reference to one of our most popular Christmas legends. Once again, we ask our friends to let us know about their discoveries in this vast realm of our national literature and foreign literatures. They will thus aid us in completing the work we have undertaken for the edification of our brothers, the popular glorification of the Divine Child of Bethlehem, Christmas in Valladolid. This brochure is sold for the benefit of the 3 free schools of Pithiviers. We ask our readers to make it known among their acquaintances. End of Project Gutenberg's Christmas in Foreign Lands, by Alphonse Chabot, Christmas in Valladolid, The Bells of Lanciano, Christmas in Sicily, Christmas Musicians, Graceful Sicilian Dialect Christmas, Holy Little Songs, Childish Creoches, Shops in Palermo, Bird's Meal, Birdsman's Log, Christmas in Spain, Noisy Celebration, The Bubble of the Holy Crusade, Easter of the Nativity, The Silancicos, The Zambomba, Holy Saturday, Christmas in Valladolid, The Bells of Lanciano, Christmas in Sicily, Christmas Musicians, graceful Sicilian dialect, Christmas prayers, holy little songs, Cheldish Crea Ches, shops in Palermo. Bird's meal, Christmas log, Christmas in Spain nosy celebration, the bubble of the Holy Crusade, Easter of the Nativity, the Silancicos, the Zambomba, Holy Saturday.
Sorry, Christmas battle, boys. I think I'm in a little ladies' way, the lays away. Gus with guilty as shards. Come here, the bells of Lentino, Christmas music in Sicily, Christmas musicians, gracefully nosies, pray, cheerful celebrate, shops pain, die, little psalms in the praise. Me a little Smith log, Casalansico. Charles coming with Holy Saturday.
The bells of Lanciano, Christmas in Sicily, Christ musicians. Graceful Sicilian dialect, Christmas prayers, holy little songs, Cheldish Crea Ches, shops in Palermo. Bird's meal, Christmas log, Christmas in Spain nosy celebration, the bubble of the Holy Crusade, Easter of the Nativity, the Silancicos, the Zambomba, Holy Saturday.
Christmas in Valladolid, Christmas in Valladolid. The bells of Lanciano, Christmas in Sicily, Christmas musicians, graceful Sicilian dialect, Christmas prayers, holy little songs, Cheldish Crea Ches, shops in Palermo, bird's meal. Christmas log, Christmas in Spain nosy celebration, the bubble of the Holy Crusade, Easter of the Nativity, the Silancicos, the Zambomba, Holy Saturday. The bells of Lanciano, Christmas in Sicily, Christmas musicians, graceful Sicilian dialect, Christmas prayers, holy little songs, Cheldish Crea Ches, shops in Palermo, bird's meal. Christmas log, Christmas in Spain noisy celebration, the bubble of the Holy Crusade, Easter of the Nativity, the Silancicos, the Zambomba, Holy Saturday.